know that Craig and I refer to, well, another friend of ours from college properly refers to the Temple of Elemental Evil by its correct name. It is the Hidden Valley Temple of Robust and Disgusting Elemental Surprise.
Never heard that.
That would be because the vegetation outside the temple is always referred to as being both robust and disgusting. And then there's at least one room within the temple where there's a page and a half, or at least a column and a half, of description about the fine Stygian tapestries and all of that sort of thing.
Yep.
And then at the very end of the description, it also says, and there's an orc in the room.
Yeah. They always
Very
start with the
bottom of the description.
Yeah, the obvious things that you notice if you open the door is always last in the description. That's it's kind of weird. It's kind of an engineering approach to it rather than an experience approach. Meaning they always say the room is this big and it's a lot of that stuff. And then eventually there's a big orc and he's trying to kill you. That comes at the last bit.
Yeah. In Village and Omelet, when we were at the Moat House dungeon, there was a 2x3, and I mean squares, 2x3 room, and there were 15 creatures in there.
Yeah.
Yes.
How's that possible?
No, they cram in a bit. I guess it's D&D physics. And
I always like how they assume your degree in architecture when you open these rooms. It's like, I do. Well, have I identified the type of plaster yet? I mean,
well, they're written by
what are
smart
the
people.
stones
So
made
that's,
of?
they're written by smart people who want to show off that they know a lot of cool details and stuff. So it's
The fact that I knew it was a Stygian tapestry was impressive to me.
Well, we learned a lot. Yeah, you have to, now you can Google it. Back in the day, you couldn't.
A lot of things that happen when people start arguing on stuff.
Awesome, Jason.
D math. It's just D&D math. Just go past it. It's D&D math.
Yep.
Awesome. You know what? Once again, my
is Len here? Did Len drop out?
Len's on. Len's
No,
nice and quiet.
no.
Len's observing right now.
Yep.
He's
I just
checking
have
you
to
all
get
out,
the,
deciding which one of you guys he's going to argue with.
There we go.
I'm just kidding.
There was a
Bring it.
lot of people, so I just had to hit the arrow to the left.
Len is here in all his glory. Absolutely. So nice big.
Castles and Crusades. I have, when I went to Gen Con in 2006 or something, and I was walking the exhibition hall, and Gygax was there, and I said hello. I bought a couple of Castle and Crusades things, and he signed them.
Cool.
That was really awesome.
Cool. Yeah,
That's why I said in the previous stream where I was sputtering like a knucklehead. I don't know what the hell I was saying.
Dude, I have that same experience. I ran into him in 2000, and I was just like,
Right, yeah, and he corrected me on something that I said, and I'm looking at him like, I don't even know I was saying that. I have no idea what I'm saying right now.
Is that the same one where I'm wheeled in like a guild navigator?
Was he again?
Oh, I was talking to Craig. I think we saw Gygax wheeled in like a guild navigator one.
Twitch is always making changes.
Well, yeah. Any news on your status?
And that is funny. Look at that. There we go. What's being wonky tonight?
What was that?
It's being wonky tonight, like switching scenes. What's that?
Oh, it froze them.
Yeah, it didn't switch.
Gotcha.
Twitch is twitchy and XSplit's being wonky, so then again, every time they keep on patching it and doing updates to it, they break something. Always seems to be the way. So Bear with us.
I was talking to my son earlier today, who does a lot of Twitch.
Oh, where did Len go? We lost Len.
Oh shoot!
Uh-oh. Lost him. Yeah.
Let me see if he sent an email. He may have been having problems not being able to hear us. It looked like he couldn't hear us.
Yeah, because he was just sitting there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we asked him a couple of things, or called him out, and he didn't reply.
Or just just joking around.
Yeah.
So
yeah. But before I got into this, I was talking to my son in the States, who does a lot of Twitch streaming, and he was trying to explain to me how the revenue works for subscriptions and bits and other things, and I didn't get it, and I went off on a rant, as I usually do, about how I think it's unfair for the creators or the owners of the Twitch streams, and he's trying to explain to me, well, you have to always get new viewers. I don't know, I just went on, I don't think I fully understood it, and I just thought that
I can explain it all to you.
I just thought that whatever a creator would do, whatever they earn, they should keep and not lose, which he had me understand that if you don't cash out at the end of the month, you lose your revenue, and that's just bullshit.
That's not true.
Oh, okay.
That's not true.
You have to get a stable.
That for a fact isn't
That's the
true
key,
there,
I think.
Renee. I'm telling you. You can't.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
That's
no,
good.
that doesn't work that way. So.
But that's a whole separate show where Jay explains.
Yes,
it's
but I don't want to explain
Very
anything to get me in
popular.
trouble with them. So.
Yeah.
And I sent Leonard a reply email back, seeing if he was okay. Just if you want to monitor that would be great. So.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone.
Here last night, when you were talking about that's not true, and other things made me think of what happened here last night. There was a helicopter flying above our building here, or around our neighborhood, just circling, and it woke up a lot of people. And there's a community social app here for our, what they call our zip code, and there's the same app, but you sign on for different zip codes, and everybody shares the community of what's going on. So if bad things happen, good things happen. If you sign on, you get the whole thing. And it was a helicopter going around, waking people up at 3 something in the morning.
Oof.
And there was one person who said, "What is this, 1984?" And I grew up in LA, where there's helicopters every day, all day long, multiple of them. And I put the, if you think this is 1984, you'll have a heart attack if you went to LA. One helicopter is not a big deal. But here, it was an intrusion of everybody's privacy.
Yeah. When I hear helicopters here, I always like go out and see if there's any big forest fires and evacuate in 15 minutes.
Well, in this case, it was the police helicopter that caught 2 out of 3 knuckleheads who busted a store window to break it. And they got them. So I go, good for you.
Good evening, everyone.
Yeah.
How are you all? We lost Len. Len was on, and he kind of blipped out, so hopefully everything's okay there. Len was on, but welcome. I'm J.K. Lorgazumba, and we have 3 of our regulars tonight. Anna B. Meyer,
Hi.
Greyhawk Mike Bridges, and joining us every time we have a Living Greyhawk show to pull out the necessary evils of information, Casey Brown. I have a new nickname for Casey. It's Casey !Drawing Brown.
Hey,
There.
I
Hey,
win
see,
enough. I'll take
this
it.
is my gamer's bag.
Okay.
Look what I have here.
Oh.
You got some cool
Oh.
patches.
Oh, yeah.
see that?
Grinning
Yeah.
Skull Values?
Oh, there it is. I can see it. There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where'd you get that one?
That came from a shirt that got overworn and messed up, so I tore the patch off.
One of Conrad's
And-
shirts, probably, that he designed.
Ripped
Yeah,
it
that's the one I
right
got
off.
in Amarillo. Yeah, I got in Amarillo, so I tore off the patch and put it on my bag.
So, hope you're all well tonight. Let me introduce our new. Well, one of them's been on before. It was on the DM's Roundtable a couple weeks ago, but we have 3 Nyrond triads tonight. I'm really excited about this discussion. So, welcome back, Renee Ayala,
Hello.
Craig Heyer. Did I say that right?
You did. Congratulations.
Excellent. John Jenks.
Hello.
Very cool seeing them.
good.
And we're-
That's great.
We're
thing. Well,
lucky because Craig and John were both circle members as well. So not only Nyrond experts, but what was the meta region called? Nyrond and her environs.
You're right.
Well, it should have been actually called Nyrond and her debtors.
Oh,
awesome.
Ooh, county.
Well, I'm hopeful we're going to find out some stuff that I never knew about, and a lot of us never knew about. Because I don't mean this in a disparaging way, but because you're West Coast, we haven't heard any peeps or information at all about Nyrond. Like normally it leaks out in other discussions. Like for example, when you get the area that was Jersey, PA, Delaware, they hooked up with the Virginian people, and we heard stories between the two. And I haven't heard anything at all yet about Nyrond, so that'll be really, really interesting. So, Renee, how long has it been since you've seen these two gentlemen?
Holy smokes, it's been for a long, long, long time, even before 2008, really, right? Because Craig, you kind of backed out of the circle a couple of years before it ended or something like that?
I think about 5 or 6, 4? I don't know.
Because
I
you were
hard.
starting a family and you had all that and then and then John, you were in the triad for a bit and then went to the circle, and then I forget how long you were in there, but it's been at least 2005, 2006.
I think I saw it through 2007.
Yeah, you were the first one not replaced.
Yeah, let me get the dates down, right?
Yeah.
Because Renee, when were you a triad member? What years?
I think 2005. I think 2005.
So year 5 to end of campaign?
I think yes.
Year 5 to end. And then Craig, you were triad member for what years?
Well, let's see. Well, I was the first replacement member for a triad. So I think 2001 is when I actually became a triad member towards the end.
Sure.
And I'm not sure when I got promoted up because, I know I was a circle member in 2002.
So that's only year 2. So that's pretty quick.
Yeah.
Wow,
it was
boom,
It
boom.
was pretty quick. Yeah.
Okay.
It was a weird situation.
And then you stepped down
Quick.
in year 4 or 5?
I think it was 4. Maybe it might have been 5. I don't know.
Well, it would have to be 5 because it was you who talked to me to come up to the triad. It was you who promoted me up.
Well, I wouldn't
from running the game
I'd have-
days.
I would have
Was
just
it John?
said, okay. No.
I know you had hands
I
in
would
it.
have. Yeah, as a circle, I would have said yes or no. But
Right.
I know you
it
had
would only
hands
been
in
a
it.
rubber stamp to whatever
Okay.
John said.
And I know you were smiling because you didn't know what I was getting into, and I was smiling, not knowing what I was getting into.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was
You-
thinking
you
sucker,
were on-
and you were thinking yes.
Renee, you were on the triad with me and Tom.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
when,
I thought
John,
it was
when were you
Craig that,
triad?
that was a person who said yes.
Yeah,
John.
John replaced me.
Oh, okay. So like in year 2, John, you were
Yeah.
a triad member?
Yeah.
Wow. And then you were how long?
I joined the circle right after Craig stepped down. I replaced Craig in both instances.
Like year 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John's my designated replacement for
And
everything.
John, you said you stepped down from the circle just before the end of the campaign?
It was early. Well, I ended the triad in Nyrond and went up to the circle, and I was only on the circle for just about a year.
Okay.
It was just shy of a year.
Just call it 5 and 6. This just helps me think when I frame questions for you guys about what was going on in the campaign overall. And for the audience, Living Greyhawk had a timeline that advanced 1 year per real world calendar year. Year 0 was the year 2000.
Right.
So year 1 was the year 2001, and the campaign ended in year 8, 2008.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I know that we had finished our 5-year plan and we were working on years 6 and 7 because I saw all of the scenarios, excuse me, I had been approving all of the scenarios out through 2007.
Mm.
And I had seen what Tom, as the head of the triad, was getting prepared for 2008, but I wasn't approving any of those. I had stepped down by that point.
So Craig, let's start with you. You, if you don't mind, Jay.
No, go for it.
You're the oldest, not oldest, but you had the,
No, actually,
the
I'm the
earliest
oldest.
start in the campaign in year 1. Can you tell us how you got involved with Living Greyhawk? Were you involved with Living
yeah, I
City
can't.
or anything else like that?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, if we want to talk about the RPGA, then that goes way back till just before college, I think, is when I started getting involved in the RPGA. And there was even again, John, if you can believe this or not, there was actually a mini-con at our school, at our college. Were you there for that?
Probably. I don't remember playing in it though.
Yeah, it was our school. We went to college at New Mexico Tech. It was about this big.
Did you guys know each other in college?
Yeah, we played in the same campaign for 8 years.
Oh, that's awesome.
What a small! I don't think I've heard of that happening in Living Greyhawk yet.
Well, that's
Very
because
cool.
he's my designated replacement, and there was a reason for it. Because I knew he had skills.
Nice.
So I started back then, and I got involved in Living City, played some Living City. I didn't really get too much involved. We were in this little tiny town in New Mexico, so there wasn't much getting out and doing things. Got out of college, started playing more Living City, and then I decided to go to Gen Con 2000. And that was the mistake. So I was just bopping around, looking at different things going on, and there was this Living Greyhawk booth. So I went, I know Living City. What's this all about? I'm guessing Greyhawk, so let's go talk to him. So I went and talked to this guy named Dennis. And Dennis turned out to be the head of the Nyrond Triad. Say that 3 times fast. And he was telling me that basically at the time, at the earliest conception, the Nyrond Triad was all in Southern California, which is, fine. But he wanted to branch out and involve the other 2 states, Arizona and Utah. And he asked me if I wanted to be the Arizona point of contact, okay, sure. Not knowing what I was getting into.
And this is year 0. This is before it started. You said 2000.
Exactly. This was an information booth basically at Gen Con saying we're going to start this thing up.
Wow.
So then I went to Dennis's house in Southern California and met with the Triad and other people who were going to write the scenarios. And we basically developed the 5-year plan and what we were going to do. And I was still all new to this whole thing. So I was like, okay, that sounds good. Who doesn't like a bit of, regicide and that kind of stuff? Sounds like fun. And then after a couple of months of, just basically being their contact in Arizona, doing game days and, just talking it up, Dennis came to me and said, we got this guy stepping down. You want to be on the Triad? And I said, okay. Sounds great. What could that hurt? And
yeah, it's going to be easy.
And, then we started in earnest, and I was on the Triad, And after, I guess, a year later, Circle came a-calling, and I was just, okay. I don't think I had met any of them until I got promoted up, and then at Winter Fantasy 2002, I think it was, is when I actually met the rest of the Circle.
So was it all of California or Southern California it was part?
Okay, it's Southern California, and you're bringing up an interesting point because the Theocracy, which was Northern California.
And Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
And Nevada. Yeah. That was funny because Theocracy of the Pale being in Vegas is just
funny.
Exactly.
And meanwhile, Utah is Nyrond.
Yeah, exactly. Right?
Oh, we'll cover that.
And it was a weird division, and I tried very hard, and I think I finally figured out where actually the division was. if you look at a map of counties in California, there's just south of
I'm looking now.
oh gosh,
Fresno.
yes,
That's the line.
yeah, just south of Fresno, there's a line that goes straight across, and you just go boom, there it is. So above that line was the Pale, below that line was Nyrond.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
That's very cool.
I don't know, the quality of the people in the theocracy was, I was like, man, why couldn't we get them? But we had Southern.
Hey.
We had Southern. We had Arizona and Utah, so we're already talking
Texas and Oklahoma.
So the company, the stream that just raided us into us, John from Blue Box, he's from California, I believe Southern California, John. So
Yeah,
he was right in
he's-
your territory.
Yeah.
So very interesting. But so, all right. So there was a dividing line, and then you came in 2002. Were you playing from day one though? Were you playing from the beginning of the campaign?
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool.
Up until I really couldn't.
Oh, understood.
So
And
yeah.
for the audience, one of the things we learned from Bullman and Jason was that I had a misconception that the circle always existed from year 0 and year 1 as the volunteers. But it turns out in year 0 and year 1, the circle members were actually the RPGA.
Yes,
Eric,
that's
Mona,
correct.
and various people whose names I have in this back document. And then they made the decision, the RPGA people, I think, were like, this is way too much work. We need to get some volunteer help to take this over for us. And then they created the meta regions. The campaign didn't have the meta regions in year 1. That's what I've come to understand.
I think you were correct. We had the adaptables in year 1.
Right. But the Nyrond and her environs is County of Ernst, Duchy of Ernst, Nyrond, Pale, and Radek.
Right.
But that wasn't a unit in year 1.
No, and actually, I think if that had been established in year 1, the plan for the meta region would have been much different. Because after the Greyhawk Wars, Nyrond was so in debt to the county and duchy that it just
Ernst, yeah.
There was so much gold to be mined in those hills. We just couldn't because of how they divvied things up. We would have had to have been really talking with the county triad and the duchy triad to get those working. So basically every triad was kind of insular in that first year, and the plans were based on that.
There was very little cross-regional cooperation throughout the campaign.
Exactly.
In general, there were some pockets where we've now learned, like Keeland and Joff, since they were so close together, New Jersey and Virginia and whatnot, they were able to do quite a bit with each other. But, they still didn't merge storylines or meta orgs all that much.
No. That's something I would have loved to have done from the beginning, is basically done a kind of an economic coup of Nyrond. That would have been great. That would have been, because that plus the Seward Lindward, fun that we had, it would have been, wow, this is a mess. Cool.
But for everything that Craig is saying, when I came into it, I would attribute it to Craig, John, and others, and Tom, who set the baseline of everything. When I got into it in Triad, it seemed to be very organized and very well done. So to hear this really for the first time,
well,
it was great work you guys did to set up the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm not saying it was bad. I'm just saying I would have gone a different way.
Yeah. It was fun. It was from a fan. It was absolutely fun to play into it, and then move up into the Triad and do stuff.
Yeah.
So, Living Greyhawk Gazetteer, we've had Gary on the show. I don't know if he did Nyrond stuff, but can you give us a little bit of information on what happens to Nyrond during the Greyhawk Wars, or what sets up Living Greyhawk, and what was Nyrond's story arcs, villains, and John and Renee, what were the types of adventures? Were player characters supposed to be good? Were they chaotic neutral idiots like they were in the Bandit Kingdoms and Divers? Tell us about the region, guys.
I'll defer to John because he came in before me. So
I'm going to start. We'll do this in chronological order.
Yeah, go for it.
Len's MIA, by the way. Len was on and he just disappeared off, and we don't know what happened to him. I sent him an email and he's not responding. So I do not know.
Yeah.
So,
Bummer.
yeah.
So if you read the entry in the Living Greyhawk Gazetteer for Nyrond, which I just did this morning, just to kind of refresh myself, there's a lot of stuff in there. I mean, after the Greyhawk Wars, you had a kingdom that was just rife with possibilities. You had people starving. You had two royal brothers trying to depose each other. You had creditor. You had a kingdom basically in bankruptcy to foreign powers. You had all this fun stuff to deal with.
And Ulmor also looking to see where they are and all of that.
Oh, right, exactly. Ulmor going, we don't need this other people.
Yeah.
But, we can be our own thing. And it was just so much to pick from. And all of it basically said to the characters, pick a side. And for the most part, everyone, at least as far as I could tell, went with the kind of lawful side. Not necessarily lawful good, mind you.
Yeah.
But they went lawful. And at the beginning, all our scenarios were basically around reconstruction. We kind of tried to, we just got done with this war. Everything was screwed up. I mean, my first scenario was basically a cattle drive from to basically
cattle call, right? It was called cattle call.
Yeah, it was called cattle call, which in Southern California is really funny.
Right.
And I basically had to make up new rules for cattle stampedes. So
Wow.
They had bandits trying to steal the cattle, and you were trying to get into this town so that they could set up ranches to feed Nyrond, and it was pretty cool.
Nyrond's huge. I mean, it is.
Oh yeah, it's
second biggest of the Great Kingdom, correct?
Yeah, it's one of the really big. It's for Yundi size, so yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lot to
For
play
Yundi,
with.
Kaoland, and Nyrond are the big ones. So yeah.
Right, John. Up to you.
Okay, so when I got on the triad, I had 3 rules that I sort of established. The first one was that we weren't going to directly touch the 2 main sort of story drivers. So the 2 brothers would appear, but the players weren't really going to affect the 2 of them. They were going to be there, but they weren't going to directly involve themselves in the story. So they would set things up, but the players were going to drive the story. So they were, if you would, they were the MacGuffins, and that was it. The players would then get to pick which direction the kingdom would go. So in year 3, we actually had Seward, the main bad guy, take over the kingdom. We actually took the kingdom and went evil.
I'm sorry, you mean Emperor Seward, right?
Correct, yes.
Sorry.
So overnight, at the very beginning of year 3, we changed the name of the kingdom to the Empire of Nyrond. We changed the logo so it went black and purple instead of red and gold. The king was deposed, went into hiding, and we changed it over to the Empire, and we let the players pick. We would have completely changed the nature of the entire world of Greyhawk and left it as the Empire if that's the direction the players would have taken it.
How did that happen? How did he take the throne and take over?
We'd set up a long-running thing at one of our. We had during our conventions. We had open. I forget what we called them.
Interactives.
Correct. Yeah, the interactives.
We've explained interactives to Jay. So yeah.
So we had the interactives, and during one of them, the brother actually sent Seward sent a wedding gift to the prince of a sword. Craig, you were actually playing the prince in that one. And he received a sword. The sword was not magical. It was completely mundane sword. All the players there were testing it, were examining it, doing all kinds of stuff, trying to figure it out. All it was a focus that allowed Seward to storm the castle with his troops overnight. He teleported everybody in, just using it as a
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
so he could scry it or
Yep.
something and then cast teleport.
Exactly.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
So everybody,
Yep.
all of his troops stormed in the middle of the night at the end of the year, beginning of the first of the next year, and just stormed the place. The king, at that point, because the father had died, so the prince, who is now king, managed to get himself and his new bride out, but that was it. So he then needed to stage a new rebellion. He went into hiding and was trying to retake the throne, while the emperor was sitting there being all evil and bastardly and all that sort of thing. But the players worked to restore Linward to the throne.
So these were two brothers from canon, right?
Correct.
Correct.
And their father was alive, right? In Living Greyhawk Gazetteer 591.
Yes.
He was the king.
Yes.
So one of the things we've joked about is a lot of the regions in the early years just killed off major NPCs so that they
Wasn't
could advance their own
Archibald
plots
sick,
and
though?
whatnot.
Yes.
But that
yeah,
was my
Archibald.
question. Like,
Yeah. Go
go
for
ahead.
it. Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike. Go run with that.
No, that's it. Archibald was sick.
Yeah, well,
At the
he was
start of the
in the
movie.
Gazetteer. He was poisoned by Seward, or allegedly poisoned by Seward, who then took off in the night. And when he was poisoned and at death's door, did he abstain from the throne and gave it to the eldest Linward?
Oh, okay.
Nowhere does
So
it
that
say he
one
died.
was telegraphed.
But nowhere does it say he died. So you guys
Nowhere.
did the death
Correct.
Well,
off screen, or
We never
No,
actually
it
said
was-
he died.
No, we ended up killing him off in year 2, I believe.
Killed
Yeah,
Archibald?
Yeah,
he
I let
passed
that
of old
happen?
age or something like that.
yeah, he died off peacefully.
He had a
Yeah.
good one.
okay.
I
See,
hate
that
killing
makes
old
sense.
kings.
I didn't know this character had been poisoned in Living Greyhawk Gazetteers.
Who didn't die in Living
remember-
Greyhawk, guys? Come on, that is so awesome.
I can vaguely remember the Seward
That's awesome.
coup causing some ripples in the Greyhawk chats we used to have for us non-Living Greyhawk people. We heard about it.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
we
so
actually we had approval from the rest of the circle to go ahead that if the players had decided that it was going to become the Empire of Nyrond, it was going to stay that way permanently.
Mm. Yeah.
So it would have transformed the face of Nyrond permanently in canon. I was
or,
very happy
or so
about
we
Well,
thought, but
in
as we now
Greyhawk
know,
canon.
Wizards of the
Yeah.
Coast gives no shits about what harding during Living Greyhawk.
that. Well,
Pardon my
yes,
French.
but
So I think for me, from that point where I came in is, and I can only speak for Arizona. I think I think Utah and Southern California, I think they were in line with how we also played in Arizona, where Seward cannot be in charge of everything. It cannot be the empire of Nyrond with Seward running. So the scenarios from 4 or 5 to finish out that arc was to help Linward to regain the throne, and all the scenarios and special missions and other interactives were based on getting him back in. And so that was really fun to see how invested. I remember so many interactives talking to people after how invested they were in the story and the plot. It was just so personal to them, and that was the cool thing about the Living Greyhawk campaign, how personal everybody held these stories in their own regions.
Mm-hmm.
in fact, at the last interactive we held in 595, 2005, I was on the phone with Renee and Tom, verifying how that last interactive went to see whether or not Seward or Linward would be the survivor of that last battle.
Yeah, what that was a 3-state real-time interactive. So
Nice.
a convention in Utah, in Arizona, and Southern California happening at the exact same time, and each state had a particular section of the castle and other things going on,
Oh,
and
cool.
we were on phones saying something happened here, something good, something bad. We're keeping everybody in touch. In Arizona, we had a map at the hotel on the wall, and we had to have special permission to put a map on the wall to show where all of the successes and failures were. It was so cool.
That's amazing. We did something similar in the BK where we did a convention in Texas and a convention in Oklahoma and ran the interactive simultaneously. That was 2 locations and it blew our mind. I think Britt and Conrad were very heavily involved in that one. I couldn't even imagine 3 locations, so kudos.
3 locations, 2 time zones.
Yeah.
And it was so important to the people of the region that the highest level players in the Duchy of Ernst drove down to Utah to play at the interactive.
To protect their investment.
Yeah. How was the relation? Because the Ernst and the Nyrond are these kind of good neighborly countries, so to speak. So how did that play off in during the campaign?
I had a really good rapport with most of the players in the Duchy anyway. I didn't know as many people in the county, but the players in the Duchy actually loved us. They loved playing in all of the Nyrond scenarios. They would drive down to play in them. They loved being at our open interactives. All the meta regionals went off great. We tried as much as we could to involve in the meta regionals, especially to get all of the 3 regions involved. The Duchy, the county, and Nyrond were really closely knit together. Less so the theocracy, and Radek was sort of an outlier because it only existed for the first year and then it folded.
Yeah.
And then it reappeared in year 5
in Hawaii, and then it moved to Australia.
It was in Australia, New Zealand, and they folded in Hawaii.
Oh my God! Yeah.
But it only existed for out there, and they were getting it started again, and they were given go ahead, run with Radek. When I was a Circle member, they were getting it restarted again. But they were just developing things when I was on the Circle and had just barely got things up and running. But they hadn't put their plan together yet.
And for the viewers, the county was Colorado and the Duchy, or the other way around, was New Mexico.
No.
Other way around?
No, the county was Colorado, New Mexico.
And Montana and Wyoming. I've got the wiki up. I always have to have the wiki up.
Okay. I thought when we drove to New Mexico to Albuquerque, I thought we were playing one, and if we had drove up to Colorado, we'd be in another. Okay.
No, but the Duchy was, get this, Idaho, Oregon, Washington, and Alaska.
Oh, no wonder I didn't go there. Okay.
Yeah. So WotC played in the Duchy. Think about that for a second.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
The first cross-regional con of any of them in the country was actually between the county and the Duchy, and was held in northern Idaho, just south of the Canadian border.
Yeah, it was.
What year was that, John?
It was in 2002.
Yeah, I think it was year 2.
Year 2, very early.
Just after 9/11.
So, oh wow. So 2000. Oh,
2001. Sorry, it was just after 9/11.
Late 2001.
Yeah.
So that would make sense, right? The Duchy of Ernst and the County of Ernst are actually next to each other on the map, right? And the Bandit Kingdoms, we did cross regionals with the Yeomanry, which makes no sense, and the County of Ernst, which does make some sense. Obviously, they're a neighbor. But doing the Yeomanry ones, we were just kind of like, all right, BK people, you've been teleported to the Yeomanry, go kill them. And the Yeomanry people were like, what are you guys doing here? And we were like, we were told to kill demons.
Yeah,
that's what we did.
I would like to say that the County of Ernst's triad throughout the entire run was stellar.
Okay.
Those guys really went out of their way to make it a good experience.
Craig, do you have their names and contact information?
Yeah.
As we
Yeah,
try
we
and
had
keep this
JP.
web going.
Yeah, we've had JP on.
Yes.
Any of you know JP Chaplow?
Chaplow,
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had him on, and he was one of the rare people who was a triad for 2 different regions.
Yep.
With what was it?
Tusmet.
Tusmet. Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, shoot me information.
And
I'm
Dickerus
building-
is saying that they
our
were in the
network.
Duchy of Ernst in 595. There was no Zeef region. Remember, we had them on for Zeef.
Yeah,
and
Chris,
it came
John,
in
and
late.
Corey.
And they did, yeah, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I get to play one of those in the virtual Greyhawk con. I got to play in a Z. Finally.
That's awesome that you got to play in that game too, man. That's great.
Yeah. Craig and John, there's been part of the reason why this show is happening and has been, I think pretty successful in the past year or two with Anna, Mike, and Jay is because there's been a resurgence from the Greyhawk community and the interest in living Greyhawk. And we'll see, questions in the audience, but it couldn't happen without, you guys giving your time to be here tonight and sharing. And, it's been 12 years since the campaign ended. And yet here we are, it was a massive endeavor that deserves to be remembered and memorialized. But the fact now that Renee was able to play in a Zeef mod.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's virtual. It's on Roll20 and Wizards of the Coast, doesn't care. No one's trying to make money off of it. So this may be a way for people to continue to enjoy living Greyhawk's history.
And we have it planned already for the first weekend in October next year, 2021. So, and we hopefully we'll get more Living Greyhawk mods, and there's more. And I'm hoping to keep on doing the Living Greyhawk games on the channel because everyone has a blast during them. These guys at Greyhawk are like chomping at the bit, right, Casey? And
yeah. John's in the audience from one of the triad members from Duchy of Ernst and Zeef.
Yeah, and Dickers.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Very, very cool. So you changed over with it turning Nyrond into an evil empire in year 2?
Year 3.
3.
Yeah.
How long did that last?
Actually, through to the end. Well, it was fully the empire beginning at the very beginning of 593, 2003. We actually changed it over on January 1st.
Okay.
And then it was set to go off at midnight, December 31st to January 1st. Our website changed over because I knew the webmaster that was maintaining our site. And then it lasted that way until right at the end of 595, although I think we had converted back over to the kingdom sometime in 595. I don't remember if we switched the website back during the middle of it or not. I don't remember all of those details specifically, but during 595 is when we held our interactive where the king took back over.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was sometime in the middle
Many
of 595 when we did that.
Yeah, many deaths during that interactive, and my younger son's character played a paladin. He was kicking butt, and then he died on that one.
Renee, is that Dr. Cyborg who's watching?
Oh no, that's my older one.
Okay.
That's my older boy. Yeah, but he was on the same table. It's my younger one, Jonathan, who's the paladin, and he had inherited a character that I played back in first edition when I was a kid. He needed to play a character, and I asked him if you want to play Kudget, keep him going, and he did. And so he played Kudget as a paladin and died on that one to restore Linward. It was great.
Yeah. So what in year 1 we talked in other regions about how there was so little gold and treasure in adventures, but it sounds like Nyrond was in some serious financial distress after the Greyhawk Wars. Did that impact the treasure on the adventure records, adventure certificates for Nyrond regionals?
Not really. It was basically kind of a directive on how much gold you had. So it was commensurate across Living Greyhawk.
Right.
Now, as I just put in chat, we couldn't Greyhawk the bodies because no one would actually could afford the.
Well, that's what I mean. How did your PC sell treasure, or did it just happen off screen?
We just kind of happened off screen.
Okay.
And they basically took a day trip to the duchy and sold them up there.
That's fair. In the BK, we always said, "Oh, we go to the shield lands to bury the heads, the severed heads from our bags of holding."
Oh my gosh.
There you go.
Just and so that whenever they start farming one day, they have to dig up all these severed heads just to mess with them. But you know, life in the BK.
So, as far as are we talking about mostly enemies from within, or are you guys having like adventures where the Great Kingdom is causing trouble, or is it coming from the forests nearby, or what's going on?
It was all within. From my experience, it was all within.
It was all within.
It was all the political machinations of everybody within, between the two sides, between Seward and Linward. And there was a wizard faction in there somewhere that I'm forgetting, maybe.
Yeah, there was the Wizards Guild, but
that they were all vying for control. But there were some, a little bit of pressure here and there from the surrounding regions, like the Duchy, but mostly the county, and Theocracy of the Pale. At times would send their what they called the New Dawn camps kind of influence into certain meta-regional plots. But for the most part, the scenarios took place just within Nyrond itself on which side you choose to take.
Yeah, there was enough internal politic kind of stuff to double the number of scenarios a year. It really was. When the meta regionals came out, that's when we really started exploring the whole regional interactive, because of the Pale and the Duchy and the county. There was enough interaction there that you knew was happening, but we only had a set number of scenarios a year to do them.
And you would have had to coordinate with those triads.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
And then when we got the meta regionals, it was like a gift from God.
To let the audience know, the meta regional adventures that began in year 3 were they could be run anywhere in the meta region. So the County of Ernst, Duchy of Ernst, Nyrond, Pale, and Radek all had their real world locations, right? Colorado through Hawaii, Japan, etc. And they'd be written by different authors, and they'd have different plot points, and they could travel through various regions or all the regions in the meta region for their storyline. So they would have, at least in the IU's meta regions, triad involvement for all the storylines. Like if something touched the Bandit Kingdoms, then they needed our input. They couldn't just take our bad guy and put it in a meta regional adventure and things like that. But in the IU's ones, I don't feel like we did necessarily a great job of having an overarching meta regional synthesis or something. It was just, this is what the Shieldland guys want to do. This is what the Furiundi guys want to do. This is what the High Folk guys, the PK guys, and the Parentland guys, and we all basically would teleport everyone's PCs to wherever the adventure was. You're in a bar, you've got a summons, go to Rookroost in the Bandit Kingdoms and help NPC X, Y, and Z, but it sounds like you guys had a better way of integrating. Could you guys tell me about that?
Well, it's surprising how Northern California took the theological dominion like ducks to water. It was they really wanted to push that angle, and okay.
So they went ultra hardcore to the Sergeant lawful neutral theocratical.
They drank the Kool-Aid and made more of it.
Okay.
Yep.
Well,
yeah.
I kind of respect that.
Yeah,
because they're annoying. There's nothing more annoying.
Wait, you gave us what? Oh, yes. And
you would have thought.
What would I have thought?
Well, you would have thought that the people up in Utah would have been the ultra religious conservative nuts.
Right.
No, they were very happy being in Nyrond.
No, I think the point of role playing is to do what you're not.
Right.
Exactly. So Northern California became the religious zealots.
And they were like, oh yeah, we'll role play that up.
Oh, they took to that so well. Wow. I remember being in Nevada on that, and how if not only in character at your table, but even outside of that with those who were based in Las Vegas, how much pressure they put on you as a player to make sure that you follow the rules of theocracy, or you might end up in a new Dawn camp. Like, really? Should I even play? Should I start with Theocracy of the Pale character? Because I don't want my guy to end up in this new Dawn camp. It was great.
So Amy Crittenden just says she was in Northern California and didn't want to be part of it at that time.
Well,
So Thaila.
It might be a little bit of a cult going on there.
I love them as I love them as NPCs, but I not as PCs. Let me tell you. So.
I think it meshed pretty well, because I remember writing during the Seward coup, after the coup, where Seward was setting up his kingdom, and there was a meta-regional storyline, and I was asked to write NMR 506, I think. Fighting the Headwind. I know that's the name of Fighting the Headwind, but it was a town north of Nyrond that really hit the border of county or duchy, I forget which, that was being taken over by Seward's people, and so that was a good meta-regional to bring everybody in. That even his touch, even up there, was felt.
Yeah, there was a lot of things even in the meta-regionals. I think I seem to recall a series where I wrote about orcs in Radek, so it got all over the place.
Remember that one?
Orcs in Radek, huh?
And up in the mountains.
Yeah, I wish I played more than Radek. I really liked Radek. I wanted to do more stuff up there. Yeah,
after Radek was dropped, it became basically a playground for some meta-regional stuff for us.
In season 8, or the year that Living Greyhawk was ending and we all didn't know, I actually pitched to Richard Selvig. I forget how to pronounce his name. But the person in charge, people on the threads might know. But Bill Salvanik, I pitched to him to branch off somebody, either some region, Utah or Southern California, Arizona, to spin off into Erratic, because I thought there was a lot of stuff to do on that. But it was the end that I didn't know, so I got the smile and the head bob, and little did I know it was ending.
Sounds about right.
Well, the Zeef guys had a great story of where they put together the big pitch to have Radek, right? Because it had gone dormant in Hawaii.
I didn't know.
And then they talk about it on their show. It was brilliant, and John's in the audience. They put together this great pitch for it, right? And then they were told, no, you can't have Radek, you can have Zeef. And the reason is, right, it ended up going to Australia and New Zealand and whatnot to help split Parentland up.
Yeah, I believe I saw that presentation, and they put some thought behind that.
Yeah, they were very proud of it. It sounded very interesting and amazing to hear it.
I mean, but they did a crazy job with Zeef. Zeef is unbelievable with the stuff they did in there, which was really cool. Yeah. What little curveballs did you throw everyone? You have to have some fun ones. I mean, obviously changing the whole Nyrond to an evil empire is kind of a big one, but you have go ahead.
I ran him over with cattle.
Yes.
I've never had a herding adventure ever, so I'll tell you that. That's a new one.
The perfect first level adventure, though.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I did you one better though, Craig. I became known as the guy with the monkeys.
Oh, right. I forgot about that.
The monkeys.
Yeah. Okay, so what I wanted to do is, before Craig even asked me to join up with the triad, I just wanted to see if I could write a scenario.
Okay.
That was all. I just wanted to see if I could write a scenario. And so I wrote this thing called Pie Fest.
Oh God, Pie Fest.
That's all it was. It was just going to be this little thing that took place. This guy was going to have a baking contest, and it was going to be disrupted by a whole bunch of monkeys that escaped and start throwing pies around. That's all it was going to be. And to be fair, it was kind of an homage to Gary Gygax and his fetish for monkeys. because he had monkeys or apes in everything.
Yeah.
So I figured I would just throw in some monkeys that would be throwing pies, and it would be a fun little romp. The problem is that I had no idea exactly how dangerous monkeys are.
In
Oh,
3.0.
Yeah. They wreaked havoc with parties. Apparently, they started killing everybody. Now, I don't know if this was because people weren't running it correctly or what, but they were just supposed to be picking up the pies and throwing them at people, and then eventually they run off, and that was it. DMs were running the monkeys like they were rabid. Well,
Good for them.
this was okay, except that I decided I would run with it a bit, and I brought them back. Not once, not twice, not even 3 times, 5 separate scenarios.
That is so awesome. It's like my love for Lossels.
Oh my God.
No, it's going to get worse because I bring the monkeys in, and I got hate mail.
That's awesome.
Okay, so the monkeys come in and they keep killing people, and every time I did the monkeys, they were at higher and higher levels. So we end up with monkeys in, first level,
Class
monkeys
levels.
at 3rd level, monkeys at 5th level. By the end, we're having monkeys that are taking on 11th level characters.
Druidic monkeys.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so they're pretty nasty, so that was fine. Well, there's also a swamp in Nyrond, and it's pretty nasty. So they go in and they have to face mosquitoes because there's mosquitoes in the swamp. It's actually known for it. That's also in the Gazetteer. Well, by the time we actually got around to using the swamp, the characters aren't 1st level anymore. So we actually had mosquitoes that were mosquitoes of legend.
You talk about gnat marsh, I presume.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're talking mosquitoes.
Nice.
Oh, so Sturgis, like really.
Oh, no. The Sturges
Ran from these.
were the
okay.
3rd level characters we're facing.
Oh,
By the time we had the 13th level characters,
you
these
had
were mosquitoes
were
of legend.
epic characters almost.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. These were mosquitoes that were doing 66 blood draining attacks.
That's awesome.
Oh wow. Yep.
And then
it's still a joke for me where I bring up and I say something. It's of legend. Everything is of legend.
That way you can justify it, right?
Yeah.
Legend.
Yeah.
Oh,
the
no, that
very
was the
last
template, Jay, in 3rd edition.
thing that we ran into that I helped approve, I didn't actually write it, but I helped approve it. There's a scenario where they have to cross some mountain pass. It's way up high. There's snow everywhere. And they ran into a woolly rhinoceros. And that's really enough said, because you have a woolly rhinoceros that charges across a snow-covered plain.
I remember that.
Yeah, that also killed people.
Yeah.
So you had
I
a
think
woolly
I remember that one.
rhinoceros in Nyrond? That's amazing. I was thinking about introducing them way up north in my campaign. So you had them down in Nyrond too.
Well, there's a snow-covered pass that they had.
Okay.
It was a meta-regional, I believe,
Ah, okay.
that we did. People just didn't like it when I threw animals in scenarios because they tended to run into them and die.
Well, at least you didn't, as John at Blue Box says, there will never be a single dinosaur in my Greyhawk. So at least it wasn't.
Same here.
Yeah, I'm
Lot of other
conflicted on
stuff.
the dinosaurs. I think there might be some at the bottom of the Rift Canyon.
So were you thinking, John, I have to ask this question. It's going to sound stupid, okay? So don't say it's a dumb question. Were you thinking of High Fidelity and Jack Black, Sonic Death Monkey's band name when you decided to do the Death Monkeys?
No.
Okay.
When I originally did the monkeys, I was totally thinking it was just going to be a one-off, and I had recently read Isle of the Ape.
Oh, okay. All right.
And that was it. That was all I was doing. I was just throwing out an homage or homage
Nothing wrong with
to
that.
Gary Gygax, and that was it. And it was just supposed to be a fun little scenario about a pie eating contest or pie baking contest, and that was it. That's all I was doing. The only other time I had a themed scenario like that was when I came down with a really nasty cold, I was sick for like a week, and I decided to do what was it? The Kiss of Ayus, where I ended up having all the players run into a mummy. And I needed something that could actually take out paladins. So rather than having him cause a disease, it was a curse.
Yeah, Mummy Ride is a curse.
This one was specifically one that would kill off paladins in one round.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I must have pissed him off.
Was it an Nyrond module, or was it a core where it had that vampire, that monk vampire? That was,
this was an Nyrond module. This was an Nyrond module. Sorry, it wasn't Ayus, it was Incognito's. It was Kiss of Incognito's.
Okay. Yeah, flurry of blows, and it knocked you. It did like 5, 6, 7 attacks, -1 level for every smack.
No, it was a rotting attack. I just remember there was a scene where the paladin knew he was going to die at the end of the round, so he grabbed a sack out of his backpack, stepped into it, waved goodbye to the rest of the party, and turned into a puddle of goo. Tom Key gave me that particular storyline.
Yeah.
Then they picked up the sack and carried it back to town so they could try and get him resurrected.
Insanity.
Well, it's living Greyhawk.
Crazy stuff. Yeah.
I want to hear a question from Mike, because Mike's got that look on his face.
Yeah.
No, I'm just reeling from the whole thing.
That's the look on his face.
I just heard the monk vampire, and I know Skagus had just exploded. So
well, I know what Renee's getting at, right? Because in 3.0, they may have fixed this in 3.5, but every single natural attack the vampire made had the energy drain, right?
Yeah.
It didn't have to bite you; it could just slap you around and drain levels.
That's first.
So a monk,
that's first edition too.
Flurry of blows, right? But then you give it monk flurry of blows, so it's doing crazy number of attacks, slapping you around and draining levels. I think they fixed that in 3.5, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe it was before the fix, but I was a player on that, just completely freaked out that one of our players went from looking good to dead, and then we had to contend with that vampire.
And they drain 2 levels in 1E. Is that what they do in 3, or is it 8 hit from a vampire is 2 levels? Oh, just 1. Okay.
Yeah,
one's bad enough.
Right.
Oh, that gives me an idea for the 21st. All right, Casey. I'm just kidding.
Well, if you're gonna do that, I'm bringing Garn.
Yeah.
Did you guys have any dragons or any other epic like NPC named monsters in the region in Nyrond?
We did. I'm going to look up the name, but we did. However, Tom Key, from when I came on, Tom Key wanted dragons to be used very sporadically because, and I agree that they were something special and not something to be killed wholesale in some whatever mod. They should have some to revere dragons, and he really didn't want them used as just fodder.
Yeah, that was the general attitude throughout the campaign, except
it was.
From in later years, it kind of there was year 6 was Year of the Dragon from Wizards of the Coast and the RPGA, so we were kind of told go ahead and uncork the dragons a little bit more. But
back in my day, it came from on high. That really,
well, it was in the writer's guidelines. You couldn't use a true dragon without circle permission.
A true dragon.
Well, I might have even put that in there. I don't even know.
Yeah.
A true dragon, not a
drow, and you couldn't use true dragons. And there were a couple other like beholders, mind flayers, and vampires or something like that were in the original
all the fun stuff.
Writer's Guide. Well, the things that they didn't want to just show up like cotton candy everywhere. And it's a dragon. Let's say third edition CR system. A CR10 dragon is crazy dangerous to a bunch of 1st level through 4th level characters, right? Arguably up to 6th and 7th level. But once you have 10th level PCs, a CR10 dragon is just a nuisance. And that takes all the specialness away from it. So that's why I made Morgenstaller CR21 when I revamped him. He could fight any table in Living Greyhawk at CR21 and probably survive.
So to go off on a tangent, Sunday nights, Gavin is what edition are you in Rules Quirks? I'm gonna debunk the CR thing because I don't ever use CR. and I don't think John does either. But we'll talk about that on Sunday night. So, what do you need CR for? Come on, it's a feel, right?
It's science.
Exactly. Well, in this case, you really need to address the whole range of player characters, which is
understood.
part of the problem.
In a group play like this, I can understand that.
Yeah.
Small scale DM.
And in organized play, you're supposed to play by the rules. You can't just adjust the adventure just to make it fun. You're supposed to play.
That's true too.
Well, until you get a mod author who gives you monkeys with pies, and you're the DM, and you decide, no, I'm going to kill these guys. You know, which is to a greater point, the authors don't control the DMs. The triad and circle members can't control every single table, every single running.
Yeah.
So
True.
You had to write the adventure as tightly as possible from a rules perspective, from a narrative perspective. You had to make sure that a judge who actually took the time to read the damn thing would run it in an appropriate manner. But sometimes we know judges didn't read it. They were rushed or they were lazy. You know, there were slot zeros, and then there was a con, and they had to run it, what we called running it cold, right? That's when a judge just gets grabbed off the street and says, dude, we really need you to run this adventure. And the guy's like, I haven't even looked at it, and just opens it up and goes like,
That's
okay, monkeys with pies. I'm going to kill them all.
I agree with that, and I was pained by that. I wrote an interactive once where I had very specific instructions on how to run the creatures, and then I'm mingling around the table, seeing it run incorrectly, and they're just mowing down without any issue at all. And I go up to him saying, "It's not how you run it. It's supposed to be this way." Oh, well, I just got handed it this way, and that's what I'm doing. Pretty much what he did is, or across the tables, that they were putting all the creatures into fireball formation. So then all the high level wizards just fireball, and it's all done.
That has to be tough.
Yeah.
Just to get something cold, I would never DM that way. You know what I mean? That's got to be very difficult.
And you know what? They were trying to do a favor, right? You know, you're at a convention and you thought you would have 6 tables or 16 tables. And all of a sudden you have 17, 18, 20 or whatever. And you look over at one of your buddies and you're like, dude, I need you to go run this. And the guy's eating a pizza, you know, and says like, oh, okay, you know, how can I help? You know, that happened at every convention we all probably worked on or ran.
Yeah.
Literally down to the pizza.
That was
Yeah, that happened to me a few times. I got tapped on the shoulder a few times in that situation.
That's because I know you could do it. Darn it.
But anyway, no dragons in the region?
I can't find the name of it. It was a green dragon.
So it was up there. Someone put it in. It was a huge name. Sasrakanamasha.
Thank you. Yes, thank
Von
you.
Malku put that in. Thank you very much.
Is that from Canon, like a Dragon Magazine article or Living Greyhawk Gazetteer or anything?
It's up in the Gamboge Forest. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big forest, right, Anna?
That's Gamboge Forest. Yep.
And did you guys do anything with the Celadon, the Celadon?
No, I got my forest mixed up. It was the Gamboge that was up north on the.
Yeah, that's down there.
Because I would have put green dragons at both forests and
between the Pale and the Nyrond for the new viewers who aren't that familiar with geography. Yeah.
Hopefully you had a black dragon in the Nat Marsh. You know, I'm very stereotypical when it comes to these. You know where dragons should be.
We tried to use every one of the regions that we had in some fashion. We didn't necessarily have an epic creature or creatures in all of them, but we tried to visit all of the regions or sub-regions within Nyrond in some fashion. We wanted to spread everything out so that the players were visiting everywhere.
Were the players able to ever develop their own structures, buildings, owned property, communities? Because we've heard from Verbabonk, I think it was Vernon and his crew. They actually created meta-orgs where players developed settlements and communities. We adopted
after a fashion. We didn't have too much in the way of property that was given out. We had a little bit at some of the interactives where some property was given out. We had some titles that were given out. Generally speaking, the players were very happy to interact with the established structure and try and restore the kingdom to the way the kingdom had been, put Linward back on the throne, reestablish the government. They were very involved in doing that. They did get involved with some of the NPCs that we had set up within some of the individual scenarios. Like going back to Pie Fest, the guy that was running that particular pie baking contest, we had one character that absolutely fell in love with that particular little halfling baker and was desperately wanting to marry him just because she loved that particular character so much. Things like that happened, and characters wanted to develop relationships and things like that throughout the campaign. And we wrote things, interactives and whatnot, to try and bring that kind of thing to life. So we worked that in as best we could. But they were happy to do little things like that more than trying to build buildings or establish their own little fiefdoms. They liked being involved in the established world more than trying to take over part of it for themselves.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. Meta Orgs did bring out a lot of those different specialties, or not really branching out, but it allowed a character or a player to have their character have a little bit more investment in the world, and they could, like any other region, they could choose a meta org that built up on that. Now for Arizona, during the last year, and I had some great ideas in the last year, not knowing it was last year, I had a team of volunteers to do exactly that, to pick different parts of Nyrond that were not developed and make a village, make a something, make a this, and they started putting together some outlines. And pretty much it was, this is what I'd like to see here and here and here. Get a team together, run with it, because I was so busy on other things going on. And they were doing that, and then the whole world imploded in a sense.
So what were some of the meta orgs? Can you
two
tell the
questions.
audience? Oh,
Yeah,
wow,
that
right,
and Extort asks, Nightly Orders and Nyrond, how did they work?
well, there you go. Meta org.
Yeah. Let me get those. I forget the names of them, but I'll bring them up right here because I know I have
Cool.
them.
Yeah,
And
you
were they
think I
splinters
would
of the
know
Great
about the
Kingdom or
Nightly
their
Order.
own?
They were Nyrond specific. I don't think Great Kingdom.
Okay.
No.
Do you
I
think,
doubt
Craig?
that. No, I can't remember. And you'd think Nightly Orders would be something I'd remember.
Yep. Give me a second.
Okay.
And I'll
I
shout
No
remember
problem.
my Living City's Nightly Order, but that's
Valorous League?
Almost there, almost
John's
there, almost
like,
there.
While they're
in and
looking it
out.
up for the audience, meta orgs were organizations that player characters could join that would represent, I don't know, almost like a social entity, right, in the game world. So they were region specific. There were very few that were meta regional, or I don't think there were any that were campaign wide. So in the Bandit Kingdoms, we had the Thieves Guild and Rook Roost. And you guys would have had appropriate ones for
Okay,
Nyrond.
here it goes. Holy smokes, there's a lot of files here.
I know, it's like blow up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had the Iron Fist Guild, Licensed Adventure, Or Theater, Patrons of the Arcane, Realmward Wizards Guild. Oh, I need to expand the there. Religious orgs, 2 different tiers, a Thieves Guild. We had one for Entrel, a series of different levels for the elves there. Oh, okay, I have a meta org booklet. Hopefully that'll summarize everything.
Were
here
any
it
of these
is.
from canon?
Yes, yeah, they all, most of them had at least a base from canon, and then after that it kind of branched out. So to give it here from top to bottom: Licensed Adventure, a Thieves Guild, Nyrond Property Owner. There were Warrior Guilds, 3 different types: the Iron Fist, Warriors Brotherhood, and Entrail Militia. Monastic Orders. Oops, I clicked the wrong thing.
Entrail Militia.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty.
Yeah,
That
I
sounds like
actually
Tim.
wrote
That sounds very BK-ish.
5-part series. I wrote a 5-part series called the Entrail. Well, it dealt with the elves and Entrail and certain things they had to do. The Institutions of Arcane Arts and Academia. John, do you know who wrote that? I think that was maybe up there in your part of the world, where they had the Or Theater, Patrons of the Arcane Wanderer, Realmward University, and Realmward Wizards Guild.
Actually, that sounds like Southern California.
Okay.
Yeah, it does.
I think that's one of
There's-
the Robert Moon crew that
Oh,
probably
he
did
wrote
that.
a lot of stuff. I forgot that name. He wrote a lot of stuff. The Royal Organization, so the Grey Watch, His Majesty's Secret Service. That was a fun one. Knights of the Realm, Royal Guard, Sagacious Society. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. Nyrond Army, Navy, and Militia, and two last ones: the Nyrond Wilderness Alliances and the Merchant Guild. And in the Wilderness Alliances was the Brotherhood of the Brothers of the Bronze, Gamboge and the Flinty Hill Foresters, and the Circle Wardens of the Broken Ring.
That's a lot, man.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
lot.
Oh, and by the way, the Entrell things is not entrails. It's not innards. It's Entrell.
Oh.
Entrell.
Wow.
Oh, because Tim
Yeah,
got all
it's a
excited.
town.
Yeah, remember Mysterious Tim?
Yeah,
got all
it's a town in Nyrond.
Entrails. Okay.
Yeah.
He's
Did you
probably
guys ever give out?
Trail. There
Did
we
you guys
go.
ever
I
give
wrote
out
that for
any
everybody.
certed monster race characters or anything like that?
I still have a player who bothers me about that to this day
Why does he bother you about that?
because I said no.
No,
So
no,
there
no.
was one hobgoblin, right? There was I forget what the other ones were, that they were basically auctioned off for charity or something like that in an early big convention. But I was just curious if you guys had done anything like that.
The closest we came was we ended up with a person who became an NPC, but she wasn't actually a player. At one of our conventions, there was a cosplayer who showed up as a succubus, and she walked through.
Yes.
She walked through the gaming room in costume and basically stopped all play in the convention because of what her costume looked like. It was rather risque. She enjoyed all the attention. Completely stopped all the tables playing. She looked very good.
Where was this? And did I get her number?
No, you didn't. She had a very, very attached boyfriend. But she
I was in
became.
the circle.
He was in the circle, but I was a circle member.
She became Riala Nadir, and she actually tried to steal away King Linward before he got married in 592, just before everything went to hell.
Let me get this
Next
right.
year.
Some
That's-
rando walks through
That's
looking
awesome.
like a succubus, and you guys write her into
We
the
actually went
narrative.
up and asked her whether she wanted to appear. She said yes. We got licensed to use her name and her
Wow.
visage within the campaign. She was very happy to do it. She thought it was fantastic. She saw what her effect was on the gaming room. So we went up and got all of her permission to do it. She thought it was fantastic. She said, yeah, I think that's great.
I remember
Oh,
those
man.
stories. Yeah.
Wow.
That's wild. We
Oh.
did one LARPing interactive in the BK where, we had some costumes, but we didn't have like that level of eyeball dropping costume.
It's so awesome you guys incorporated the whole character right in that quick. I mean, just spur of the moment thinking. which is
Hence
wonderful.
living.
Yeah, hence
Yeah.
living, yeah.
Hence
Anna,
a
what were you
living
going to say?
campaign.
I was going to ask Leonard, who did he get to marry in 592? Was there any political alliances made or something like that?
It was. I can get the name. I
Yeah.
can get the name real quick because I was actually one of the scenarios that I was going to run for virtual Greyhawk Con. It'll take me a second, but I'll get to
Oh,
it.
sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Take your time.
So Andicarus says that he got killed at Nyrond Con and was reincarnated as a pixie and actually played the pixie once. He got approval.
I do remember that he was in Southern California, I believe, because Tom probably would have run that.
And you could do things like that at a convention, right, where one of the triads or circle is present, because you could bend your own rules, but you couldn't do that at home, right? Because then you would have everyone saying, "Oh, I died and I got reincarnated as a bugbear, and now I'm an even better fighter."
Yeah, I remember people coming up to me with weird suggestions, but I can't remember any of them, and I'm pretty sure I said no all the time.
Yeah, I
Just
mean
'cause I'm
that was
Disney.
half the job of being a triad member or circle member was just telling people no, you can't do that, because sometimes when they request special missions, they just wanted access to the
Yep.
cheesy feat,
Yeah.
you know, that
Exactly.
they were reading in one of the splat books and or
Yeah.
prestige class. And you know, in the Bandit Kingdoms, if you ask for anything paladin related, no, go visit the Shieldlands. We're not going to do that here.
Yep. I just
Yeah.
typed into the chat. It was Queen Xenia.
Oh, awesome.
Sala
Thank
Varian.
you.
Cool. So, as far as memorable PCs or NPCs, do any of you have your favorites that you remember just from cons or from individual players that were, you know, really like, wow, this is awesome, you know, stand out? I know,
Nothing comes to mind, but
I know it's a big, broad scale because you guys had so much going on. Because a lot of these, they always remember. You have this one that you incorporated in. I was just curious if you had some other ideas.
The one I remember is when we did that 3-state interactive, and it was each triad member was wrote particular encounters for their own section, and for Arizona, we really dug into a lot of the canon of Greyhawk. I'm sorry, of Greyhawk, of Nyrond. One of them, I'm forgetting the wizard's name. There's one in canon, Giselle. Maybe somebody on the who's listening would know the name, but it was a wizard who had retired, and
It's probably in the
we wrote
Marklands.
him. Yeah. We wrote him to come out of retirement in a sense, and to help out. That's the one that I remember.
Okay.
Pretty much.
What was the pre-LGG canon source for Nyrond? Is it the Marklands?
It's got to be.
Yeah. Well, at least
Yes.
that's where I went. Every
So
time I went
detailed.
to research and source something, I went straight to the Marklands.
Yeah.
Had to be.
Yeah, that's the kind of the major source of kind of published material up until LG for Nyrond. Hardly anything more than the few entries in the.
And of course, and Gary's still not on tonight, which I'm surprised.
That was
what they wrote in this then, right? A lot of
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
So you're saying that the original king was poisoned in here, in this book.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Archibald. Yeah.
So give me some other tidbits as you were going later into, after Nyrond's back to a kingdom. What did you finish out the last 3 years with? If any of you were still.
How long did it stay evil? Or
it sounds like
how
2
did you
years.
resolve that?
2 years it stayed evil.
Oh, here it is. The name was just Selin. I'll type it up on the thing.
Cool.
I think it was just a year, right, guys?
No, it lasted through all of 593, 594, and then roughly halfway through 595.
Okay.
Because we were supposed to have a 5-year plan,
right? And
I wanted the 5-year plan to end, if you will, with the defeat of Seward, or Seward killing off Linward permanently, one or the other. However, the players decided that particular route to go. So we left it up to the players, but I didn't want it to be, at the very end of the year. So we timed it to be, I think, sometime around August, somewhere in that general realm. So we timed our scenarios to put it somewhere around there, because we knew that was sort of the height of the con season when everybody would be able to travel and have all of the big conventions, but we didn't want to interfere with everything else that was going on. So we figured out a good time when everybody would have a convention that would sort of fit in together and scheduled them to roughly coincide. And then we got lucky that we all had a weekend that was at the same time. Yeah. And scheduled it so that we all were running on the same weekend.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Yeah. I remember in Arizona, in Phoenix, everybody was just absolutely crazy that we were pulling this off. There was just so much energy in that convention room at the hotel, and everybody was just could not wait. It was like I was being not yelled at in a sense, but being egged on, like, hurry up! What are the numbers? What's Southern California doing? What's Utah doing? They wanted to know immediately so they can keep going with what was going on.
Wow.
So how many people do you guys think played total between the 3 locations this event?
Ooh.
7. No, I don't.
We had, well, Utah was the smallest convention site, and we had
Dude, let me ask Dorian.
15 tables, I think.
So 90
Altogether?
players, 15 judges who would have slot zeroed it, probably play tested it or helped write it.
I know I just did one slot zero table. Just we couldn't do more than that.
Yeah, it's tough for big events like that. So if Utah was the smallest, that's 90 players. That's a minimum of 270 to 300 people playing the same game at the same time. This is something Adventurers League can't do.
No.
Adventurers League does good stuff, but it doesn't do that. Pathfinder Society does good stuff, but it doesn't do that. They do have their specials, right, at Gen Con, where they'll fill up the giant ballrooms. But I don't think they allow tables to interact with each other. And I assume you guys did what we did in the BK or anywhere else. You could have 4th level schmucks go and join an 8th level table or vice versa during an interactive. That's why they were called interactives.
Oh yeah, I remember one in specific. It was a table I was running where it just the way the castle was, there was a level 15 table going on adjacent, and there was a table here. I forget the levels, like mid-level, and then one past them. And I'm imagining how it was all laid out as far as the tables and how the castle went. A lower level, and that lower level table was getting the butt kicked out of them by shocker lizards. And some here were done with their encounter and had to go through this crazy 15th level fight going on to get to the other ones. And for the couple of rounds, the players at the 15th level table did everything they could to protect those players going through to not get annihilated immediately.
Oh, that's amazing.
To help out the other ones. Yeah, it was so
The
fun.
version of that in the BK is we had a table where the 8th level guys wrapped up something early, did a good job, and they're like, oh, let's go help out the 10th level guys. And as they arrived at the 10th level table, the 10th level players were fleeing from their encounter because it had kicked their ass. And the 10th level BKers turned and looked at the 8th level guys and said, smell you later, suckers, and just kept going. And the 8th level guys got their snot beat out of them, had to flee, and one of them got trapped in a force sphere, and that became the legend of Ulfar the Dwarf, the guy who just got left behind and got slaughtered by the demons.
Oh, that's
so sometimes
cool.
the table hopping did not work out, but other times you'd have a 12th level guy just say, I'm gonna go bop around. He'd go to a 4th level table and he'd give them all of his buff spells, and these 4th level characters would just become the equivalent of 8th level characters, and have a lot of fun.
We had big chalkboards set up with running tallies of which tables were doing what, which tables were succeeding, and it was like watching Wall Street or maybe a betting thing going on in Las Vegas. And people would get up and go look to see how well they were doing.
Yeah. It was so great.
All right. Excuse me. How many registered members did you have in the Nyrond region, roughly?
Oh, that I wouldn't know.
Not a clue.
We didn't have access to the numbers, Jay, from the RPGA play numbers.
But
Yeah,
you
right.
had
I
to
thought
see the
maybe
docs
Craig had
being turned
circled,
in.
but-
No, it was too much to keep
No.
track of. No.
I mean, you get
I
table
didn't
trackers,
keep a
but
spreadsheet of it.
Let's
I
see.
just know that so many times, multiple times during a week or a day, I would get requests for scenarios because of game days or conventions being run, but I never tracked it.
it just wasn't part of our mandate. It wasn't monetized. We weren't paid. They didn't have this Pathfinder Society, right? You have to register on payzo.com right? And then you report all the adventures to whatever your
Yeah.
number is, and it shows
Yeah.
up, and they can actually track their play numbers, right? Living Greyhawk, sure, it was 2,000, and they didn't quite set up that infrastructure. They didn't think about, how can we track this? They should have created mailing lists, right? Hey, here comes the Monster Manual 3, for marketing purposes and things like that. But they just didn't make that leap.
But it was early days of the internet compared
Right.
to today. So yeah.
All right, we were using Yahoo groups for Pete's sakes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that at some of my cons that the number of tables I turned in was a couple hundred. So that's all I can know.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a
With
huge
3
con.
days, 3 slots per day, something like that, a couple hundred, right?
Yeah.
So between the three
Yeah,
states, at least 1,000, right? Kind of.
Yeah, I had a stamp that I made to verify that I had all the adventure records or certs that I was signing were mine. So I would stamp all of them, and I know I wore the stamp out. So
And
it
that was
was
just Utah.
well, I traveled to a lot of
Okay.
conventions out
You
of
mean
state.
when you judged, John, you would stamp it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That was a good idea.
So there's a whole lot of certs out there that have a Kingdom of Nyrond stamp,
Oh, cool.
and I know it's mine if it has that stamp on it. Just randomly, if you look at them and it's got that stamp, it was one that I did.
What's the craziest AR adventure record favor like you guys gave out? I tried to give out a half red dragon baby, and Chris Tulloch said no. Like you could actually get pregnant with a half red dragon baby.
Oh, that was
consensually.
Morgenstahler's.
gosh.
Yeah.
I remember a pseudo dragon. Everybody was going after a pseudo dragon.
There's Gary.
Oh,
There's
God.
Gary. Gary missing the fun there.
yeah.
So
Agree.
some really good discussion tonight.
Before I forget, in the one with Gisellan that I just said, Melf made a cameo on there, and I just have my own happiness that Luke Gygax is involved with Virtual Greyhawk Con and Autumn Revel, and he does not know that his character made a cameo in a Nyrond scenario.
Oh,
Cool.
Yeah.
Please
Awesome.
tell more. Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Well, what was the cameo?
Yeah. I mean,
Uh,
what was
it
the
was-
story?
Well, I wanted to just say it that way, but now it seems like I'm self-serving my
No, don't worry about it.
It was
No,
a,
it's okay.
a scenario I wrote for Entrell, that 5-part Entrell,
Okay.
and it was also Gisellan that was in there. And well, you know what? I'm gonna copy the blurb on here, and then I'll type it. I'll copy it into the chat there. But it was pretty much Melf being the liaison between the Celadon and trying to get the elves involved into what was going on.
Oh,
And so he
perfect.
goes into Nyrond and speaks with the High Wizard Gisellan on what is going on. Pretty much that was
That sounds
he just
awesome.
came
Yeah.
in. Yeah.
Perfect. Yep.
Yeah, but I'll drop it into the
Mhm.
part there just
Yeah.
so others can read it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So now we get to a bad thing. How did it wind down and end?
Yeah.
We got it. With all the good came the when did you find out, and then what did you all do? So John, you were gone at that point.
Yeah, I had pretty much dropped out. Unfortunately, I think both Craig and I were gone for various reasons. I had real life work concerns had pulled me out.
Well, we
Mm.
talked
Yeah.
about this with other triad types. We were spending anywhere from 10 to 40, 50 hours a week on Living
Okay.
Greyhawk between writing,
Slackers.
editing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
In
there
the
was
circle,
a lot of time.
you guys were only getting paid $2,000 a month per Eric Mona or whatever, $2,000 per quarter,
Okay.
or whatever
Try
the
it,
pay
nothing.
was. It wasn't
I-
full time.
I don't recall it being $2,000, but
It
okay.
was 4,000 a year.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
you
I
go.
thought it was one a
Okay.
quarter. That's what I was thinking
Yeah.
too. Maybe we just got ripped off, John. I don't know.
That's very possible.
Nyrond was poor, or I miswrote it down. But So
Yeah,
did you
I
guys
remember-
go on? Sorry, go ahead, Craig.
I remember cashing that check and the teller looking at me, because it's nice Hasbro check for $1,000, and I just said, "Yeah, it's a game reimbursement, just a refund." It's like, okay.
Hey, it paid for some. It's paid for some expenses, right? Kind of
Did
like
they fly you guys around?
Yeah,
Oh,
we
sorry,
got to
Jay.
go to Winter Fantasy and Gen Con.
Very cool.
Yeah, it was good while it lasted, I suppose. But
What did you
John
guys
got to go to
transition?
Australia.
Yeah, I'll
John, you
rub
guys
that
sent
one
down
in.
to Australia?
Yeah, when they
Oh,
reformed
awesome.
Radek, the new Australian triad,
Mhm.
and I forget his name completely. There's a WotC rep that's actually living in Australia. He managed to pull a few strings, figure things out. He managed to fly me down to Australia to help them set things up. So I went down there. I was down there for 5 days, 4
Very
days,
cool.
something like that. So I was down there. It was a fun trip. I never left Sydney, and it was overcast and stormy every day I was there.
Yeah, we had Mark Summers, Dean Bailey, and Bruce Paris on from Australia
Yeah.
last month and talking about Parentland and Radek. But did to stick with Craig and John real quick, did you guys transition into Living Forgotten Realms or Adventurers League or anything like that? Or Pathfinder Society?
No, but Craig's intro story reminded me. Mine was a little different than his. I started the campaign same time he did. I went to that same Gen Con. I had seen 1 or 2 Living City games and thought they were silly. They were very over the top. They gave out way too much magic. You sort of get into the campaign, you sit down, and here's a cert, here's a cert, here's a cert. You just get thrown stuff. And so I went into Living Greyhawk and I said, okay, I'm going to sit down. I'm going to make a throwaway character who's, if this is anything like Living City, all I'm going to do is sit down and I'm going to try and win tables.
Whoops,
Because I
I
figured
did
it was
that.
going to be,
I did that.
John, you should explain winning
I
tables.
apologize. I
RPGA
did
used
that.
to vote. Each table
Yeah.
used to vote on role playing, like MVP
Right.
kind of thing.
and
So
so,
that's what winning the table means.
yeah, and so that's all I was going to do. I was going to sit down. I was going to try and be the best role player I could. Just sit down and try and beat all the other players at the table in terms of over the top role playing. That's all I was going to do. Wasn't going to take it seriously at all. So I was going to be an unemployed potato farmer. So I was a halfling sorcerer who showed up and had a rake. And that was
Oh, God,
that was
the
my
rake.
character's stick. I had a
No
rake.
pun intended.
Well, that was the thing, is it wasn't even a very good rake. It was just a rake. My one trick was I had a cantrip spell that I would cast on the rake. It's now leapt out of my head completely. But I would make the rake dance. And
Like a prestidigitation, like
exactly,
Mickey Mouse, right?
press the digitation, and I would just have my dancing rake. And I was fully convinced that the rake was alive, and the rake was the one casting the spells. I would pick up eggs and throw them in combat, that kind of thing. So that was my entire shtick at the table. But all I was going to do was role play, and that was it. I wasn't going to do anything else. Now, the reason I was an unemployed potato farmer was because I would show up and I would ask if anybody knew if there were any farms for sale. If you read between the lines, I was trying to buy the farm. Now, the funny thing about this is that I would play this character throughout the campaign on the side, never taking the game seriously, but I would just keep playing the character as we went. As a triad member, I was not allowed to officially play in Nyrond, but I would play locally with my friends just to play the character. I could play in other regions, and I could play in core scenarios. Once I became a circle member, I couldn't officially play in anything, But again, I would continue to play locally because we didn't actually have enough players amongst my friends to fill out tables. So I would just join them to help play test and that sort of thing. So I
now
just
you
kept
know-
playing.
So now you know why he got promoted.
Yeah.
So I would just keep playing and everything was fine. 6.5 years after the game premiered in 2000, I'm sitting down at a home game with a bunch of other players, and we're running things. And one of the other characters that's there, a friend of mine locally, says, "Wait a minute, you're trying to get yourself killed." And I went, "Well, I guess I can retire now."
Someone figured it out.
Finally,
You know that had nothing to do with the question.
I was
right?
14th level.
But it's great. It's digressing. Yeah. That's what we do here. I mean, come on. And once again, we don't know what happened to Len. Len was on until we started, and then Len just came off. Maybe he's not feeling well or something. But digressing is our big thing here. That was a great story.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
Well,
Yeah.
Craig heard the question.
Yeah. So at the end, I was
That's
so
awesome.
burnt out after all that time and effort I put into it. And let's face it, I hated the ether modules. So-
Okay. We've talked
I
about
just
that.
said-
You didn't like those? I kind of enjoyed
No, not really.
them. Okay.
I actually even wrote one or part of one. So
Yeah, you did.
And
yeah, I don't
that
know.
was at the end. You just it was,
Yeah, I had my second kid at that time, and I was just like, I gotta hang this up. So I did.
But no LFR or anything after
No,
that.
I stepped back hard. So
Are you involved at all in any sort of gaming scene now?
not really. No, my kids want to start, so I'm probably gonna run them through some
that's awesome.
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
That's what you got to do.
Well, yeah, very cool. And obviously, with social distancing, we're all picking up Roll20 or other virtual tabletops, and we're able to play with people all over the country and world.
Speak for
Renee,
yourself.
you're in London. It's crazy these days. John, are you involved in the gaming scene at all?
Very little. I have a couple of friends locally that I still hang out with occasionally. Mostly we get together and do some board games just because it's hard to get everybody together.
Yeah, adulting.
Adulting is the
Adulting
biggest.
sucks.
Pretty much.
Says the guy with no kids. And then Renee, what about you? Did you go into LFR or anything after the end of Living Greyhawk?
No, I didn't do 4th edition. I skipped that, and I instead went into Pathfinder. I was actually put everything away for maybe almost a year. I just had put everything away. I was so crushed with Living Greyhawk ending.
Mm-hmm.
But I still ran the game day that I started, but I didn't play. I just coordinated. And some people were playing LFR. Some people started Pathfinder Society, and those with Society said I would like it. One of the campaign worlds that I liked was Eberron, and they had Mark of Heroes. And they said Pathfinder Society is very much like Mark of Heroes. Checked it out. It kind of hit my buttons, and so I jumped into Pathfinder and did Pathfinder Society until.
Did you become a venture captain or anything like that?
I was. They announced their first pool of 13 or something, and then right after that, they announced the next pool of something or others, and I was in that second batch. So I was a venture captain for a little bit, and then I was actually a venture captain in Arizona, a lieutenant in New York, and then a lieutenant in Colorado. And so that was great. So I was really into Pathfinder Society, and by the time I hit Colorado, the game just got to a point where there was just too many books, too many options, and too much craziness. And so I went to 5th edition. Yeah, 5th edition kind of simplified everything for me to what I like. But from time to time, I do dip my foot into Pathfinder Society because there's still I ran 90% more than I played during the end of Greyhawk and all of Pathfinder Society. So from time to time, I dip my toes into something, and just to get the feel of what that was, because I thought 3.5 was very good at its core. Pathfinder, the core book, was very good. Is just the extra options that kind of created craziness. But I thought the feats and the skills and the whole system there was pretty elegant and pretty great. Yeah, so I could sit in the core books of 3.5 and Pathfinder all the time. Those are fun to play.
Yeah. We could talk about that on Jay's Gavin show, where he's going to talk about edition right differences. I don't know who's going to talk about Pathfinder.
Anna is.
I will be.
Well, she's an expert.
Yeah.
So.
I know I'm not an expert, but I like
Aren't
it.
you?
I use it.
Well, then
no, I'm not an expert, but I use it. I've used it since it came out.
So the Mighty Jabberwock is talking a lot, saying hello, Renee, and also remember your character addicted to Pesh in Vegas.
Yeah. That was that was Pathfinder. Created a half orc. At the time, it was allowed in one of the books to have Pesh that gave you a D10 in 10 hit points. And when you're like first, second, third level, the D10 and 10 hit points is pretty good, but you have to make a save to see if you're addicted. And in one game, I rolled a 1 twice.
Nice.
Yeah, so he became an addict, and I like characters. I said before in a previous in one of these where I can't create powerful characters, so I always create characters with flaws, and that was his flaw. He was an addict, and I would talk to the DM and say, don't go cheap on me, or don't try to softball anything. If he is full on addict, that's his role. He doesn't know, he can't get out of it. And I will look to see if other players try to do something to get him out of it, and they didn't, until one time that game where he failed his save twice, and he was high off his rocker, and the DM rolled to see where this monster would come up from out of the ground, and sure enough, adjacent to me, and it went first on initiative and just took me out dead in its full attack. And one of our, him, Craig Thomas Sleeper, he played the cleric. He was in out of character. He was devastated because he really gets into it that his character could not help me. I said, roll with it. What are you playing cleric? What are you going to do? And awesome. He says, well, I raise you, and then I try to counsel you. Yeah, keep going. And so he was raised, and he converted to that faith, and he was a recovering addict.
So the Mighty Jabberwock has identified himself, Gary Ledford. Okay.
Oh yeah, Gary's awesome. He's so
Gary
fun.
played in the BK tourney.
Yeah.
At Virtual Greyhawk Con.
Yeah, Gary's a great player.
Fantastic. So Gary and everyone else, you got to give credit where credit is due. Casey is the organizer in getting these up and off the ground. So please, everyone, thank Eldraco, Casey Brown for
thank you.
all these shows.
Craig, we summoned out of the mists of darkness an email, to a 20-year-old email address in a document I found, and I was like, is anyone in the darkness? And like Craig replied, I'm here.
Wow. Awesome.
And then he reached out to John for us, which was great. So, very much appreciate it. And I wanted to tell Craig and John, I'm going to try in 2021. And this is news for Jay, maybe, I forget. And I'm trying to put together a all circle episode of this show where we will then talk about very high level. I want to hear about the circle fighting, from the old Yahoo groups. And, I'm going to pick on the Sheldamar Valley all the time for all the bullshit they gave out on their adventure records.
Actually, but I just as a note on that, I have a circle status from October 21st, 2002.
Okay.
And basically, let's see some of the high points here. Finalized new adventure record in ML.
Yeah.
And so that was on Jason. He was supposed to do that. Develop core plots. Apparently, we still had a lot to fill at that time. Let's see. Winter Fantasy meeting. Win. All we know is Jason needs more beer time.
That's in the official notes for the circle.
Well, these are the notes I took.
Oh.
And I mailed them to. I was basically kind of being the secretary at this point.
Hmm.
Let's see. Anything else in here that's fun? Now, apparently, Steve had a deity proposal which needed more discussion.
Steve Conforti?
Yeah, Steve Conforti. Yeah, the less tall member of the circle.
That's
Yeah,
funny.
really. I know. Geez, what was that about?
Well, the rest of us were like 6 foot plus, and then there's Steve.
Yeah.
Well,
But,
just I'll reach out to you guys in early 2021, but I think, Jay here has made, maybe a convert, a little bit of Eric Mona when he had him on the Gavin episode, and then B, he played D&D with
And
Luke
it
Gygax.
was unbelievable. The best role play I've ever had.
Oh
in
yeah,
my,
that was
yeah,
so
he was
fantastic.
unbelievable.
Yeah, that was so damn good. And ooh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
Should
we've
we
had
never hear
Jason,
this character?
or they've had Jason Bullman on.
Yeah.
So
And
I'm
yeah.
thinking, just getting circle people together. My roommate was Britt Fry, who was a later IU's circle member who was Chris Tulak's replacement.
Who was Jason's replacement, right?
And Tulak was Jason's replacement.
Right.
And so obviously Greg Marks, is doing 5e Wizards of the Coast stuff. He's been trying to reach out to Tulak for us. But anyway, I just thought it'd be really fun if in the future we do a circle thing. So hopefully you guys will be down for that. And then Renee, I'm also wanting to put together a Nyrond on her Environs meta-org show where, Craig and John will come and ask you guys to be on, and we'll get people from the COU, the DOU, the Pale. If we, I need help. I need some Pale people, and I need some original Radic people, not the Australians. We don't have any pre-Australian Radic people yet.
Mm-hmm.
Dutchy, we had JP, but if we could get a little help with COU and DOU, that'd be great. We had Zeef, John from Zeef on, as well. But I'd like to next year do meta regional shows where we have a circle member and then one triad member from each of the regions, so we could talk about.
That. And for John and Craig, the only emails I had is just what was buried into the campaign source book, and all of those are aliases because they were all at nyrond.org, and I know that server's been shut down. That's all I had. I don't have anything else.
Yeah, the only person I talk to regularly outside of John is Tim Pittick. You guys remember him?
Yeah.
I don't remember the name.
Yeah, in Arizona, in Phoenix, right?
Yeah, we sometimes run into each other at Boy Scout events.
Okay, yeah, I remember him.
Well, there's also a Discord community growing. Part of the success of Jay's show here and Anna and Mike has been this forming of two separate, vibrant Discord communities. One, Greyhawk Online, which is tied to the Orth Journal, and Jay's channel is on that, and then Gary's Cannon Fire, website and Discord channel. So if you guys are active on Discord, you don't have to be
I'm linking them
active,
both.
but if you're around and have a few minutes, reach out to me. You can see my nickname Ardrico here in my screen.
On Discord?
I'm putting together
Okay.
a super secret circle triad meta org on Discord, basically.
Take over the world.
Yeah.
Well, just so that we can. Hey,
Keep
I
it
want.
easier
I need this lost. I
communication.
lost my documents. Can anyone replace them? That kind of
Correct,
thing. Not
Josh,
for mod
it's
sharing because
Ardrico.
that's not legal.
Funny, that's what I asked John the other day.
We're trying to really, link out all of these groups again, and any information you can provide to Casey on any other triad areas like that Ernst area that would be county, or if you still have any contacts, even if they're 20 years old or whatever, we'd appreciate it because look, Craig, they reached out to you with a 20-year-old email, right?
Yeah,
Casey
well,
and it worked.
Because it's my domain.
So, and because we got to count how many regions we've had on. It's got to be 8 to 10 at this point.
Oh, I have my tracking sheet, which I post
Yeah.
sometimes. Joff, Keeland, City of Divers, Tuzmit,
Yes.
Verbabonk, Zeif, Bandit Kingdoms, Furiundi, Highfolk, Perrinland, Shieldlands, County of Ernst, and now Nyrond, and then Radic. So that's probably getting close to half of the regions, but the Europeans obviously are going to be difficult because of the time difference.
Well, we
we
had the
may need to-
Australians, which was crazy.
Yeah, for Europe, we'll probably have to do Jay
Europeans-
like a Sunday
We can
afternoon.
we have to do a
show
morning
or
show.
something.
We can do we can move a Gavin or a special
Yeah,
Legends and
we
Lore on
could
a
do a
Sunday morning
special-
or
yeah, we
afternoon
could
or
do
something.
this-
But
Yeah,
yeah, Renee, you're in England. Go hunt down
Yeah.
Crichton, knock on
Yeah.
his door, you know,
Yeah.
Dude,
and
And
get
if
him.
Send me his address. I'll do that.
We've tried.
Yeah.
I've tried reaching out to him too to come on Gavin, and I've been unsuccessful.
and
Might
if
as
he
well
gives
be
you any
awesome if we
shit
did.
about a dice bag, you tell him I don't know.
That is awesome.
That's an inside story I'm not sharing.
The Splintered Suns meta region is the only one so far where we haven't had a single person on.
Gaming, and BS. Greg Marks was on. We had Greg Marks as one of our first guests.
Hmm.
Yeah, second. Greg Marks has done. It was very nice. He
Yeah.
also gave me some advice when I decided to call Virtual Greyhawk Con that, and he said I wouldn't worry about it. As he works for Watts, he said, they're not going to bother you about that if it's not for profit. So very cool, very cool guy. So awesome. All right, so let's see what all three of you gentlemen have as a closing thought for this whole discussion. Experiences? Would you do it again? Let's start with John.
Definitely wouldn't write as much as I had.
Okay.
All told, I think I wrote roughly a third of the scenarios in Nyrond, at least through the first 5 years, and that was too many.
A third. Oh my gosh.
He wrote a fair number.
So
I started off just wanting to write one, and then Craig said, "Oh, well, you can join up and do more," and I sort of took over because I do that.
yeah, that's numbers. You're talking 20 a year.
Well, you got 8 regionals a year per region. And then when they introduced meta regionals, you got 5. But at least through the first 5 years, I probably wrote a third
So
because our original triad dropped out very quickly. And I was on the triad, well, by year 2. But
That
I
was
was
pretty common.
scenarios in the first year.
The original 3 triads for most regions experienced very quick either burnout or, oh shit, this is a lot more work than I signed up for, from what we've gathered by talking to people.
Yeah. That rings true.
Yeah, so I think my first scenario was number 3 in Nyrond,
Was it?
something like that. It was either 3 or 4. It was pretty early. And yeah, I think I was writing roughly a third of them, somewhere between 3 or 4 scenarios a year.
Mm-hmm. And then you had a couple of others from Utah that were helping you out as well, writing stuff. Eddie?
Yeah, Eddie wrote a couple.
Yeah.
I know Brandon, who did our website, he wrote at least 2. Craig, or not Craig,
Yes, I did.
Brad Hawks wrote 2. He was another one of my local guys.
Yeah.
I was recruiting people wherever I could because we had a real problem getting authors early. We did better later because people were enjoying the flavor and wanted to keep writing more scenarios, get involved and wanted to keep it going. But yeah, I had to write a lot of stuff early on because people wanted to play, but nobody wanted to step up to the plate and write anything.
Yeah. I'm looking right now at season 1 and 2 and everybody here. A lot of names I forget or I had forgotten. Haven't seen this in a long time.
Dude, you're going to have to send me some of those.
Okay. Here's one from Troy. Troy McLemore.
Well,
Troy.
one of the things
Counselor.
I'm trying to help Rich Longtalos with is he put together a spreadsheet of all the Living Greyhawk adventures, all 2,000 and something of them, and trying to fill in blurbs, level ranges, authors' names, and things like that. And he did a whole bunch of work on his own where he was trying to, he found these things online and started, but you can't really copy paste from a lot of the PDFs because of the password protection. You'd have to crack them and all that stuff.
Oh,
So
right,
he's really
right.
asked for the community's help, and I think this is a project he's doing with Gary of Cannon Fire. And I told him, I'll try and help a little bit, but I'm busy my wife's selling her condo, we're buying a house, I'm busy at work, I got a bunch of excuses, I haven't been able to help, so I'm trying to farm it out, and maybe I can get you guys to help out.
Isn't this where we plug your book?
I haven't done that yet. I was just letting it go tonight. Booyah. I owe Mike $5 more. This isn't actually a book project for me, but I can understand why people might think it is. But it's just part of my archivist nature I want to help Rich out with this. I don't know if he's in the audience tonight, but anyway, so I'm hoping the more people we can contact, we can eventually create, just one document where people can look and say like, okay, Nyrond 103, adventure name, level, blurb, author, so that this stuff doesn't disappear into the mists of time. I know there's things out there like various illegal websites, but I'd like us to do it the right way.
Yeah.
So,
I'd like
Casey,
to remember what I wrote. That's for starters.
Gaming and BS says he's got a relationship with Chris Tulak.
Yeah, I saw that. So
I gave him my email.
Yeah,
you may want to
that'd be
whisper him
great.
yours as well, so that
Yeah,
we can try
we've
and
got
make that connection.
Greg Marks working on them, and
Greg Marks is working on them too. Okay, good.
Yeah, so anything would be great. Tulak is great fun. He was a High Folk Triad member, for those who don't know, and now he got a job at Wizards in their organized play department, I believe, sometime in the late 2000s. But when he was a Circle member, we flew him down to Texas and had him play Greater Boneheart Jumper at an interactive.
Wow.
So he was playing this evil 20th level wizard, and he got to open up a gate and have all the demons come through, but he had great fun. So if we could get Tulak on, that'd be great. And then we'd have him on a future Circle show with Craig and John here.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
You can also get his brother Nick, who was Pale
Nick
Triad,
involved?
I believe he got to Pale Triad, didn't he?
Oh, I have no idea. If it was outside of Texas and Oklahoma back then, I mostly didn't know about it unless it involved Britt, who was a good friend of mine.
I know Nick was pretty big in the Pale. I don't know if he actually got to try it or not. I think he did.
Okay. A little nepotism.
Actually,
That's
not
perfectly
at all.
Greyhawk.
Yeah,
It's perfectly Theocracy of the Pale.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
there it is.
I'd love to hear the Theocracy of the Pale stories. I really
Oh yes.
would.
Yeah.
I would.
We need to have them too. That
That would be cool.
Yep. Need some.
Craig, what do you got to say in closing? And thank you both. Thank you all for coming on too.
Hey, not a problem. It's fun. I don't know. It's just there was so much work and effort that went into Living Greyhawk, but I wouldn't change a thing. It was, well, that doesn't mean there are things that changed, but it came off really well, and I think it was well executed. Sad to see it go, but all good things must come to an end. But I really think that WotC and the RPGA had a thing here, and it was a lot of good people put in a lot of good work, and it really worked out.
Well,
I don't know what the decision was to trash all that just for 4th edition.
very good point there. I'll say this. I was pleasantly surprised of Greyhawk Con with Casey's tournament, which was a huge success.
Oh, thank you.
The Z modules, and I really,
Oh, yeah,
Renee,
people have been talking about the
I
Z.
want to say I'm really heartfelt sorry that you couldn't get yours filled. That sucked, and hopefully next year we can get that done. Get those games filled and get I want as much Living Greyhawk content in next year's, like double, triple what we had this year. I really would love to see that. And what else, Renee? What else you got as far as a close?
I was trying to find some here with Craig on years 1 and 2, but I came across a lot of John, a lot of your scenarios. Ron, separate from that, Ron Lundeen wrote a Nyrond year 1 and later became a big contributor to Pathfinder on those books. So we had Ron Lundeen at one point. But one scenario that I had forgotten you wrote, John, was Patriots or Felons. That was one of my favorites. And for those who haven't played it, it begins, and I remember it back all the way back then. It begins where the party, the player characters, are in court for murder. And in Nyrond, if you are convicted of murder, it's at the end of a rope, and you had to prove why you are innocent. And the whole series is played out in flashbacks.
Nice.
And so you play a scenario, or I'm not a scenario, you play an encounter that then you either prove or disprove your statements in the present. And then you present it to the judge or whoever else, and then another flashback and another flashback. And by the end, you either are a patriot to Nyrond or a felon. It was fantastic. A lot of people didn't like it. I loved it.
Sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Take
Well,
it.
I should say people didn't like it in my table. In my table, they didn't like it, but I walked away saying that was one of the best ones that I've ever played. What are you guys talking about?
Cattle Call was a year one, wasn't it?
Which one?
Cattle Call.
Yeah.
That's mine.
Yeah. It's right here, 104.
Crazy. Some interesting stuff. I mean, you hear such uniqueness with each region. You know, a cattle call. That's a new one. That's a. I've done.
I love it.
Yeah,
You're in Arizona. You got to go with what you know.
Oh man, in the BJ,
Did anyone get
the
trampled?
Would have stolen the cows and
Please, yeah.
murdered the farmers.
You would have stolen everything. You would have stolen
would
the
just
posts,
take
the
it
fence
in.
posts.
was-
Yeah.
Oh,
Eat
man.
half
I wrote it a
and
little differently.
sold the rest. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, crazy stuff.
And that was the beauty of Living Greyhawk, is that each of our regions had our own different storylines, vibes, and feels. And yeah, maybe we didn't cross regional enough, you know, or have meta-regional meta-orgs early enough, or, you know, Old Faith planet-wide meta-org or something. But you could live in Nyrond and have your character, and you could travel to High Folk, Bandit Kingdoms, Yeomanry, whatever, and get to experience. And just, it would be mind-blowing, the differences in gaming culture, you know?
Yeah. At the time, I had a job that had me travel around from time to time, and I would find out who the triad group was in whatever state I'm going to, send them an email. I will be here from this date to this date. What game days are going on? How can I find something? And then, of course, you try to squirrel away quick at 5 o'clock at the end of the work shift, and you take off to wherever the game day was to get something. But I remember being in New York one of the first times, and in Charlotte, North Carolina, and they put a special day together just for me coming in. And that's how I met Sean Smith in New York, and then led to lifelong friends after that in New York when I moved there. But that's just what's happened. And people coming into Arizona, or I would see them in Vegas, or into Gen Con, and you see these people everywhere all the time. And there was a point where you had kind of like a handshake agreement. If you're ever in name a country, you have a couch to stay in if you ever want to come over to our region. And I would make the same stay. You're ever in Arizona, and a couple of people took me up on the offer. Flew in from wherever they were coming from and grabbed the couch and to come to the con.
Absolutely, you know, and
or the
Living
fundraiser,
Greyhawk
right,
had
Casey?
a great community. I'm sorry,
Or the fundraiser, right, Casey?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like, you know, going down to Jay's basement, my 5-hour pilgrimage. He didn't even know me and let me in the door, so I got very lucky.
Last
There,
February.
you know.
And look where we are now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like, you know, Renee makes a good point. Teos from Joff used to travel to Houston and reach us. We didn't have Warhorn, right? Or we were in the early stages of learning how to use Warhorn for game days and things like that. So you had to email the local point of contact, which is why that role existed in Living Greyhawk, the triad member point of contact.
Yeah.
And we would host things just for Teos, who would come in from Virginia. And, you know, it was a community that has lifelong friendships developed from it, you know, which we're all lucky for. So it was really good to hear that story, Renee. I thought that was awesome.
Oh.
Yeah.
No,
It's really
Gary,
cool.
it's that you're talking about Tim's basement getting out of, not mine. You can get out of mine pretty easily, but with Tim's is a little different story.
He would escort people out of his basement Can't be in there if he's not down there.
So let's see, Mike, what's going on, man? Some nice nice Greyhawkery posts lately.
Yeah, keep tuning into Greyhawkery. Read my Ring of 5 question column. Enter it
Which
if
is
you
awesome.
want to take part in the community. Thanks, Casey.
I finally had a chance to catch up, and I emailed Mike my responses.
Yep, coming soon. So that's just been my bit of fun. I just gotta say, thanks to Craig, John, and Renee for their stories. I like these Living Greyhawk shows because it gives me a glimpse of some part of Greyhawk that I didn't experience. And now I feel like I got more of a complete picture of the community now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Definitely.
Casey, what's going on?
Oh, well, first of all, I want to thank everyone for the kudos about the BK tournament, Jay, and the audience members. I've got, let's see, John, Mike, who else? Gary, Ledford was in it. Asher, I've seen you in the audience. Dale. So at least like 4 people out of the 15 who played. I'm probably missing someone as well. We're here in the audience. So very nice of everyone to say that they had a good time, because quite frankly, I wasn't sure how it was going to go over, with the BK flavor, and I didn't TPK any of the tables, so I'm very disappointed in myself. But what I would like to announce, though, is that I've been invited to run the tournament as a non-tournament, just as one-shots, for a con called Extra Con, and I'm going to go ahead and give them a shout out, and I'll explain why.
Sure.
So here in New England, there is a LARPing convention called Intercon. My wife is actually a LARPer. She plays D&D, but she is more on the LARP side of nerdery. And so a couple years ago when we were dating, she was like, hey, I do this thing in February. I go to Intercon. And I was like, well, I've done some LARPing at Dungeons and Dragons things. I could do this. And so we had a great time, and I do it every year now. Well, the coordinator played in one of my 5e games here locally, and she reached out to me because Intercon, like most conventions early in 2021, has gone full virtual at this point. They can't have their event, and it's a massive LARPing convention. If you're into LARPing at all on the East Coast, you probably know what Intercon is. So they are now having Extra Con, as they call it. So I'm going to post the website, but the reason why I'm posting a LARP convention is because they're actually going to run tabletop RPG events virtually through this con. And she reached out to me and said, hey, I heard you did this thing. Can you tell me what you did? So I explained the tournament, the Band of Kingdoms thing, and how it worked. And she said, oh, that'd be great. I just don't want you to do it as a tournament. She doesn't want the LARPers to get super competitive, I guess. So
You just want to run it as an experience. That's cool.
Right, exactly. So I'm going to run it once or twice for them. And I encourage anyone who's interested in LARPing or wants to reach out to them and offer to run things tabletop wise to go ahead and go to that website. Now, LARPing wise, I will tell you all this. I've done one LARP remotely, and it was actually kind of fun. We were it was a LARP where we were fighter pilots, like, in an X-Wing, except you couldn't use Star Wars IP. But we had our headsets on, and we used the Zoom backgrounds to make it look like we were in space fighters or whatever. And we had a LARP where we were doing stuff for 2 hours. So if you're into that, a different type of gaming, I definitely recommend checking out ExtraCon and seeing if there's anything you might be interested in. They've got different levels of pay. You can do $0, $10, $20, but you don't have to pay. That's just like, hey, thanks guys, here's some money. So a very affordable way to have a good fun weekend. It's the 3rd weekend in February, I think. Jay, what are you? You're third.
4th.
They're the 4th. Right.
Yeah.
So it's the weekend after. I made sure. I actually, juggled schedules and things to make sure that it didn't conflict with Jay's charity.
The 24-hour plus Greyhawk mega fundraiser event.
Yeah. So right now they don't have a ton of RPGs. Nerd botchery, I see the question. But the events in February, they're still taking signups or event submissions, and their signups don't even go live till November 19th. So there's going to be more events added. So I encourage anyone who's interested, like I know, John, you've been running Zeef things left and right. Reach out to them. Renee, reach out to them. If you're in England, I don't know how the time zone would work for you. They're East Coast. But anyway, so that's what I'd like to pitch tonight.
Cool.
awesome.
So, and you are the one wild card for. Are you going to be playing November 21st or not? Right.
Well, yeah, I gotta check the calendar because of the house.
Even
You
Eric.
know I want to.
Even Eric Menke said he's in, so that's big.
Well, is Eric Mangay selling a condo and buying a house at the same time?
Okay. That's okay. We got a group. I mean, Anna's there, so she'll bail
Well,
out the
and
group.
also,
usual.
I didn't expect that. They don't need me. The Jeff guys don't need me to hold their hands.
That's true.
And
That's true.
whatnot. I would love to play. I love to play at Jay's table. He knows that, and I like the new character. I was really kind of pissing and moaning about, well, why can't I
Duelist?
play Garn? But the duelist is going to be awesome, especially once I get him to 7th level and he dual classes into specialty priest of Kellenin.
That'll be cool.
Yeah, then he'll be an awesome little tank.
Kick ass.
Oh,
So.
and I made his mini in Hero Forge color.
Oh,
Have ordered it. I kickstarted that one. I'm waiting on the mini to come to me so I can review it, and then I'm gonna mail it to Jay because John, Craig, and Renee. When I play on Jay's tables, I don't use any of his minis for my PC. I mailed him my mini for Garn. Garn was my living Greyhawk character from the Yeomanry, and I mailed him that mini and converted the character to AD&D because.
Comes in a special courier in a Lincoln Town car with a wormwood box, and
I still have the holder. I still have the plastic holder and everything in case.
Yeah.
But Garn's not gonna leave in my house, so.
Yeah, no. So I'll mail this guy, and that way also Bill the Master Crafter can check out the quality on the Kickstarter color minis, or excuse me, the Hero Forge color minis.
Absolutely, because he doesn't have enough going on.
Well, I thought he'd like to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we got so much as you can see with all the 3D printing. Okay. So Anna, do your shout out. I'll be right back. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I don't have that much news because I've been pledging the same thing or talked about the same thing the past 2 weeks. So I'm working on the heraldry for the 576 Atlas. And it's coming along really well. I've done 10 pages. I think I posted the first 6 or so are available on my website, so you can download them. And the rest is coming, and I really like what they look like. It's the graphic-wise, it's the best work I've done so far. I think it's really looking good. And they're also on my Patreon page. There is the another post about my upcoming Greyhawk map, the new generation Greyhawk maps, which are also in the making. And so there will be a Lendor Isle coming this spring, and that will be a whole bunch of other regions there will be, I don't know how many I will do next year, but that will be the main focus next year will be to do a number of these kind of areas that are like 50 miles across or something like that at 5 feet per pixel in resolution. So it's really high resolution. So you can basically do an overland adventure almost like you would do a dungeon crawl, so to speak. You can see the whole the whole area, so with everything. So the characters can literally get lost because you can see every trail, and to go from one town to another becomes it's this mini campaign setting. You can really place all the little cool things and stuff, and they will come in raw material too, so to speak. So you will get layered PSD file, Photoshop files and stuff for people who want to put their own roads in there and they want to tweak things and put their own buildings and stuff like that. So that will also be available. So they will come so people can tweak them and do a lot of things. So, and the shading will be a layer. Now I'm talking a little bit graphics for people who want to do this, but the texture is one layer, and then the shading, the hill shading is another one. So you can literally paint in things like fields, houses, roads and stuff, and that would not affect the shading because the hill shading and stuff is on top. So it makes it a lot easier. So they will be good that way, and they will be fully 3D as well. So you can see there will be GIS compatible and stuff, so you can actually put them in Blender or you can put them in QGIS and you can look at them from any angle and stuff like that too. So it's kind of it's the new generation Greyhawk maps. The old one I've started over 20 years ago, so almost 25 years ago since I started. So it's old technology, and these are actually based on really new technology. And then I have some other tricks that I want to start doing, and some other a parallel project. That's all I'm going to say, because I need to tweak it a bit first to see if I can actually pull it off, because then it will be kind of fun too. And thanks to all the awesome patrons that helps me do this and do keep me going. So I've kind of broke a record this month. So it's kind of awesome. In the middle of the pandemic, I get more support than I've ever had. So thank you everyone who makes it possible for me to sit and play with this and upload it to the internet and let everybody use it. So yeah. But it's more stuff is coming. So yep, more stuff is coming.
More
so
stuff. Absolutely.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you all. I'm going to go through this as quickly as possible. Tomorrow night, this is when you can hit that exclamation point drawing, and that's the wrong one, but I'll leave that up. Okay. I'll leave that one up. I'll just cover it. All right. Tomorrow night we finish Awakening of the Terrors. That's my wonderful table that's set up. It's in the county of Ulick. They fought in Defile's End, and it ties into a story from the Hateful Wars. They are fighting some shadows, slow shadows, and even some sword wraiths, Gary. So you got some fun things going on there, and it'll be a Gamescape 3D sponsored giveaway drawing. I've been scrolling through a lot of the STL files they'll be giving away. It's going to be a fun event tomorrow night. Next Thursday, since I already have it up, we got to have a Halloween special this year. Curse of Sleepy Stream Bridge. All right, it's kind of hokey, but you get the idea. I got Bill and Master Crafters working on some minis for it. And so it'll be a special one-shot Halloween. I may even dress up. I guess my son and I have our costumes.
There better be the Overgourd?
The Overgourd's not available yet. The Overgourd Mini is not available. It's not available until April of next year, and then we'll have an Overgourd event.
Disney, come on.
Yeah, no, it's Reaper. Reaper. It's part of Reaper's Kickstarter. So it's April 2021 that comes out. So, but that'll be our Halloween special next week. The week after that, we go back to our Norwell group, and I reset something that I've never run before. So I'm going to, for the first time in 40 plus years, run against the Cult of the Reptile God. I've never run it. Okay, for my group. Imagine that. In 893 adventures at that point. That's one we never did. And I changed the name from Orlane to Lorraine and relocated it. It's on Anna's map. And so that'll be 2 weeks from tomorrow. We'll finally get into that one. So that'll be cool. All right. What's going on Sunday night? This Gabbin ought to be a good one. What edition are you in Rules Quirks? Nothing better than starting a fight up. But I don't think it'll really start
Edition
a fight.
Wars.
Yeah, I don't think it'll start a fight up. And Anna, Leonard, if Leonard's
Jay, let me just say right now, because I'm not on this show, and that's fine. I just gonna say it. Thaco's stupid. There, I said it.
Ooh, gauntlet tossed.
That's right.
Yes, and but every time you play my game, you use it. So there you go.
I know. It's still a little stupid.
It's stupid, but it works. So for me,
but the good thing, the way Jay does it, it's simple because he does it behind the screen, so you don't need to worry about it.
That's true.
And so yeah, so Jay have solved the conundrum. He does all the number crunching behind there. So yeah.
I have a feeling that everyone's going to discuss more of I've been told I'm 100 different things. So I say I'm a 1E 2E hybrid, but really I'm not. So I got a lot of 3 feats and I got a lot of stuff.
1 point J.
We're going to talk about
yeah.
Mm-hmm. And William Henry Dvorak's going to talk, and he's got some announcements I think he's going to make on the show. And John Birchfield, everyone knows from Blue Box, and he's 3.5 with 5E and 1E in it. So that's he goes all directions.
I was messed up. Yeah.
So
yep. I downloaded. Was it his? I downloaded somebody's. Oh shoot. Let me find it real quick. But he has, here it is, Player's Handbook Revised, and it was done by.
Is that Scott Agnew's?
Probably but it was the blending of the editions, and he said this is my version of what 3rd edition should have been.
Oh, 3rd edition.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that was John. Then that was probably. Okay. There's so many out there, but we're just going to talk about some things and rules quirks we do. There's been a lot of inquiries on how do you do this, how do you do that. So I figured it'd be a fun show.
That's
Don't want to fight or anything, but you never know. Next Wednesday's.
Well,
Yep. Go ahead.
yeah. No, I'd say they shouldn't. But that's all.
But you know, we may get a couple other guests on too, and go from there. We'll see. So next Wednesday, famed monsters of Greyhawk during Halloween week. Famed monsters. I've been told to try and stay away from dragons. We'll see. So that'll be a good.
You guys can do a whole show without dragons and do dragons in the future.
Yeah. So we're gonna
You
try
can
and
get Gary on for that.
Yes. Well,
Yeah,
you know,
Mike and you
Gary.
did
Yeah,
sorry.
Gary's been hiding out a lot lately, so we'll see.
Yep.
Well,
But
that's
you know,
what
Mike
I'm
and me,
calling
we
him
did
out.
one a dragon way back a couple of years ago. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. And by the way, a nice shirt you're wearing there tonight. I
Oh yes, I
appreciate
have to show the colors here. Yep.
Big announcement here is our next big guest has been scheduled, and he wants to come on a Wednesday night instead of a Sunday, which is cool. Skip Williams will be on in 2 weeks from tonight. Okay.
Nice.
All right. So we'll have Skip on, and we'll talk about his experiences throughout D&D, what he's doing now, what he does for GaryCon, you know, and all that. So I think that'll be
Ask him to explain himself.
What's that? Excuse me?
Ask him to explain himself.
I don't want to. We try to be positive here. So,
Yeah. Craig, I told Jay I can't be on that show because I do not have good opinions about Skip's conversions from AD&D to 3rd edition and other things of that nature.
we will keep you muted.
I'm in the audience.
Yes.
To keep you muted in the
For that
audience.
one.
Yep.
No, I'll be polite. I'll just sit there
Yeah.
and keep my mouth shut because I think it's great you're having him on.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, it's so interesting to hear, and also the backstories and stuff, meaning how things came about and stuff. It's so interesting to get all the inside stories on things.
So I'm excited about it, and we're going to
me
try
too.
and our goal is one big guest a month. I mean, with that going in September and October was insane, where I had Eric Mona, Luke Gygax, Jason Bowman, James Jacobs, and Jim Ward all within like 7 weeks of each other.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you can't expect that all the time here, but we're going
You have Lynn on as like the patron saint
Yeah.
of elder, Greyhawk gods,
twice a
Yeah.
week
who
almost.
has developed a great relationship with you.
Yep.
I think Lynn dropped off tonight because he's just not that much into Living Greyhawk, and he knows
Yeah,
we would have
that-
bored the snot out of
It's
him,
possible, but he did have a contest he wanted to announce. I'm
Yeah.
looking. I'm checking emails,
and
and
I have nothing yet. so-
here it is. His. I just got it. Damn. So what happened is his Spectrum internet service completely crashed in the area, and his internet was down. Is still down. Must be back up now. That he sent an email, but this was his entire internet went down. So there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's feeling okay.
Glad to know it wasn't Nyrond.
Yeah, no, Len likes to get his talks in. Trust me on that one.
Oh
So,
yeah.
all right, everyone sit by. We're gonna raid dragons in the dining room. It's a smaller stream. They participated in Virtual Greyhawk Con. They did a stream. They were on the Friday. They did the first day. So and they're doing the Ghost of Salt Marsh now. So why don't we hop in and check them out? Craig, John, Renee, thank you. What a pleasure to have you on. It was a fantastic discussion. I learned a lot. I learned some really fun the monkey thing and the cattle ranching and all that. It's just that's just it's such great anecdotes. and that Nyrond went evil for a couple of years. That's even more awesome. So love to hear about it, and we'll have you all back for something in the future, definitely with Casey working on and some other discussions. And please keep in touch, and hopefully you all can participate in Virtual Greyhawk Con next year and some other things we'll have going on. I didn't even mention it, but we're in the planning stages for the 24-hour plus Greyhawk fundraiser event. We do benefit St. Jude. We raised $2,500 last year. We had 6 channels participating over 4 hours. We may have as many as 8 now, so it may go to 32 hours. I'm looking forward to it. Now it'll be the weekend of February 20th, 2021. So for everyone out there, thank you for the unbelievable support. Thank you for completing a level 5 hype train. I don't think we've ever done that, even on a mass. We may have done that, and I didn't even realize it on the show of Eric and Luke. I wasn't paying attention.
That might have been. Yeah.
It may have happened but I was so busy that night. So, but on a talk show, that was unbelievable. So tomorrow night's the big giveaway for Gamescape. If you have a 3D printer, please, you want to sign up for that tomorrow night's stream. We'll see you all tomorrow night. Have a good one. Thanks. All right, sit tight. I'm going to raid in.
Yeah, good night, everyone.
I'm going
Thanks.
to raid into them, give them
Thanks,
some
Craig,
numbers here.
John and Renee.
Well, no.
I love hearing about the other
It's-
regions because you guys actually had like a normal region. You weren't overrun
Yeah.
by demons.
We
and stuff.
tried.
Yeah.
Yeah, we tried to. And for John and Craig, and the last time I was here for the virtual Greyhawk, I gave a story of how a Snucklehead Nyrond table went over to Albuquerque into BK and tried to be that lawful good type Nyrond table, and
10 seconds.
not knowing how things worked over there, and so all of us getting laughed at by the BK players.
Oh, I bet.
Heading in. We'll see you soon.
Go home, Paladins.
60-person raid going in. That's awesome.
It was so funny. But it was a red dragon that was targeting one PC at my table that I was at. And
Oh, you were there.
Half of us were Nyrond, the other half was BK, and one red dragon targeted one of the BK players, and us Knucklehead Nyrond players tried to save him and got a couple of us killed because we could not leave him. We could not give up.
That was a simulacrum of Morgensthaler. It wasn't even a real dragon.
Oh,
No, now you
jeez.
tell him.
Yeah.
Simulacrum
It
of
was-
a red dragon gets immunity to cold and fire. Little shield.
Okay, so you need to come and tell the whole story about Morgensthaler. That will be an episode by itself. That yeah,
That'd
because
be
I
a
want
good
to hear
Sunday
that.
night Gavin show.
Yeah, I want
Yeah.
to hear. I want to hear the older stories. Yeah.
If you're still
Okay.
on, have a good night.